Welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. I don't know where the Overlord is. There we go. We got my co-host and the Overlord. Shout out to the Verticals. That is our co-host, Morty. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. We got equality and deference because vagina over on Rumble already. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Said it, liked, and shared even before the start. Thank you so very, very much. You guys know how much that stuff really, really does help. It is free, it is easy, and it really does help. It doesn't even matter if you think anybody's going to click on the link. It just matters that you tell the platform you want more people to see it. Welcome, 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 everybody. We also got Liberty Plus TV. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And the Rage Page. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Guys, we are going to have fun tonight. Was it last night? Last night was the Dave Smith and Liquid Zulu debate on the non-aggression principle. And I already wanted to cover it. We were going to cover it either way. But the fact that it played out, and I didn't watch everything, but, you know, I like to make sure we got something good. I already expected it to be good. But I see so many similarities between the debate that I had with Made by Jim Bob, where he is very philosophically and theoretically sound, but he doesn't really engage in the reality of what his ideas say. And I think this is the same kind of thing here, where Liquid Zulu is probably better on the technical facts of what is libertarian theory and this and that all that stuff. But in the clip I saw, he basically gave away the entire debate. So let's dive right in. As always, guys, if you cannot hear me, or if you can't hear me or the video, please do let me know. They're doing 10-minute openings and then open debate. And again, they are debating the non-aggression principle.
Zulu, if you want to go ahead and get us started with your opening statement, defending, again, the resolution that libertarians bite the bullet and restrictions on public property and to never violate the non-aggression principle.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully.
So essentially, it's just that if you're a libertarian, you have to always follow the non-aggression principle, full stop. Otherwise, you're not a libertarian.
I don't lag out too much. I did close everything possible down, so hopefully not too bad. So this is a compound resolution. It has two parts. First, that it is correct to bite the bullet and support zero restrictions on public property. And second, that libertarians ought to insist that it is always wrong to violate the N.A.P. First, biting the bullet is a question both of competent debate strategy and intellectual integrity. I will prove that the bullet biter is correct on both fronts. As far as debate strategy is concerned, it is simply not possible to win a debate on any resolution against sufficiently competent opposition if one is not willing to bite any bullets. For every possible position one may come to in philosophy, there must exist reductions ad absurdum against said position. There will always be certain edge cases for any thesis. For there not to be any such edge cases means that there is no edge, meaning that the thesis is fuzzy and ill-defined. When you ask absurd questions, you get absurd answers. If I were to ask a mathematics student how many apples Mary sold at the end of the year, if she sells double the apples each day, and on the first day she sold 1 apple, they would tell me that she sold more than 1.5 times 10 to the 110 apples. That is orders of magnitude more than the total number of atoms in the observable universe. It is not valid for me to counter this by saying how absurd mathematics is, because there's no way for a woman to sell that many apples. Ask absurd questions, and you get absurd answers, in ethics or anywhere else. Take the Christian ethic of thou shalt not steal. Taken literally, this means that the literal God of all of existence tells you that you should not steal a penny to stop the Martians from blowing up the Earth. The Christians certainly can't hold that God might have made a mistake when he gave that commandment, so the reductio stands against any internally consistent Christian ethicist. The choice is either to abandon the original principle entirely, or bite the bullet and stick to it. This is why it is simply bad debate strategy to refuse to bite bullets. As we've all seen previously, in his debate with Andrew Wilson, Dave spent hours conceding every obvious libertarian position to state his arguments, up to the point that he refused to even bite the bullet on conscription being inherently immoral.
Starting off with the big guns.
Refusal to bite bullets and ground his arguments in a solid philosophy has left him impotent and forces him to latch onto whatever philosophy is provided to him in the moment. A debate is a logical flowing of argument between opponents. There is a precise logical method that determines who has won a debate, and it does not depend upon claps or audience polling. If one participant refutes an argument from their opponent, and that refutation is not itself refuted, then that argument is considered lost for the opponent, and vice versa. What it means to not bite the bullet on some principle is to contradict that very principle. From this, it becomes trivial for one's opponent to flow through.
So they keep using this phrasing, bite the bullet. And to me, that means, like, if you have to bite the bullet, it means that somebody else has a legitimate criticism of your ideology, your defense, whatever it is that you're arguing, and saying, okay, I'm going to give you some ground here, but I'm going to give you that ground because I don't need it. I'm still correct, even though in this one instance, you're correct. That's what I understand from when they're talking about bite the bullet. Shout out to King Nirvana. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Not surprised to see you here, but very, very happy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Like we said, Zulu went into this with one goal: to take Dave's libertarian card. Oh, man. So again, I'm not super familiar with Liquid Zulu. You guys have been talking about him a lot, especially in the lead up to my debate with Jim Bob. And again, from what I've seen, I don't know, but there is a lot in here. So just to let you guys know, I do want to get through as much of this as we can. So don't take it personally if I don't pull up your chats. All right, let's do it.
For debate strategy, biting the bullet is also essential for intellectual integrity. Integrity means that one is morally uncompromised. It is loyalty to one's rational convictions and values, the policy of acting in accordance with proper principles. Whenever one finds himself unwilling to bite the bullet, this means that they have abrogated a principle that they are attempting to uphold as true. They are trying to cheat reality on the altar of their random whims or cowardly sacrifice. They are giving up the true, the good, reality, for the false, the bad, nothing. This is the very mark of the disintegrated soul. Public property is merely one such instance of this general principle that libertarians must bite the bullet on. Indeed, the principle still applies here. What does it mean for there to be zero restrictions on public property? What it means that the government becomes completely laissez-faire with respect to it, that they will not interfere with it whatsoever. That is, it becomes immediately open to homesteading and can be rationally allocated to its most value-productive use. Dave has, in the past, attempted to strawman the zero restrictions position by sneaking various restrictions through the sally port. For instance, by positing a scenario where the government...
that's not... So when, like, I think it'll come up, but an example of, like, okay, we'll do the prostitution debate that I did with J.S. Urban, where I was essentially arguing that it should be legal because, the harm and all of this stuff. And he was bringing up a statistic about a rise in sex trafficking. And so I had to bite that bullet and be like, yes, you're right about this, but also I have other points behind that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Shout out to Angry Amputee. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. We got the captain of the Moral Felon Crew. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Very good to see you. Yeah, now we're up to 12 viewers and only 3 likes. What's going on, guys? Let's see on the vertical side. They're already doing better than you. Landscapers, you're falling behind. Liberty said by biting the bullet in this debate is basically referring to edge cases. Like, would you steal a penny to save the world? Liquid would say, no, you shouldn't steal the penny. That's what this is referring to. Yeah, and my wrong opinion is essentially, it's not a wrong opinion. It's an acknowledgement that, yes, I am advocating for something where some bad things will happen, but the argument is the good things that will come from it are more than that. Now, that's specific to the debate that I had, but let's just get a definition. Why not? Let's get a specific definition. Bite the bullet. What do we got here? Bite the bullet. Decide to do something difficult or unpleasant that one has been putting off or hesitating over. Decisions have been taken, and as a director, you've got to bite the bullet. I don't know. Is that really... Well, so as they use it more, we'll start to put it into context. But that's always how I see it. You gotta bite the bullet, meaning that there's a bad piece of your argument. And that's it. There's a bad piece of your argument. It doesn't mean that your argument is complete bullshit. It just means that you gotta bite the bullet and admit when you are wrong. All right, let's dive back in again, guys. Since there's a lot here and a lot I want to talk about, I'm gonna try to not stop it and be so much in the chat. So again, please don't take it personally. I just really want to see this. Shout out to Brandon Mize in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Biting the bullet is typically used as another way of saying reductio absurdum. Yeah, they're gonna understand that one any better. But welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Let's do this.
Making various restrictions through the Sally Port. For instance, by positing a scenario where the government is still forcing people onto public property, preventing them from leaving, and in general maintaining the commons. Take a prison. Imagine if I were to say that the warden and the guards implemented a policy of zero restrictions imposed upon the prisoners with respect to the prison or any other public property. This would directly imply that the prisoners could simply walk out of the front door and nobody would stop them. Preventing people from leaving is a restriction also. But when it comes to reductions around this same policy implemented on public schools, Dave holds on to the premise that people are still being forced to go and stay there. This is still a restriction. Imagine what it truly means for this policy to be applied to all public property. The state could have no permanent basis of operation, no courthouses, no White Houses, no military bases. In fact, no state-owned guns or cars. These are also public property, property of the polis. They are public servants, after all. If this policy were followed tomorrow, the state would be immediately reduced.
I need a new mouse. I don't know what's going on with that pause button, but what is with this? Get a new camera, bro. Get a new camera. What is this?
After all, if this policy were followed tomorrow, the state would be immediately reduced to a band of nomadic savages, completely incapable of maintaining a federal tax collection apparatus, war machine, welfare state, Federal Reserve, or pretty much anything else. They would be instantly turned into the random thief who waylays one on the side of the road in some Lysander Spooner hypothetical, a much preferable alternative to the current situation. I will bite that bullet 10 times out of 10. We absolutely should support the scenario of zero restrictions on public property. We are all faced with a choice when presented with such reductions ad absurdum. Either we find some way to deal with these problems within the objective framework of the N.A.P, or we abandon the N.A.P, throw up our hands, and claim that the principle is useless. I wonder what the philosophical term is for that latter option. Pragmatism, perhaps? This is the option that Dave has taken on this front. Instead of trying to work out N.A.P-compliant solutions to the problems he sees with public property, he reaches towards government solutions to what is decidedly a government problem. He wants to set the entire US military at the task of shutting down immigration. He wants this shit shut down by any means necessary. The second half of our resolution is that libertarians ought to insist that it is always wrong to violate the N.A.P. And what it means to be a libertarian, I quote Dave Smith. Libertarianism is the belief in self-ownership, private property rights, and the non-aggression principle. That is the best philosophically sound definition of it, which isn't circular. So, libertarianism must include a belief in the non-aggression principle. Thus, if they're to be intellectually honest, they must insist that it is always wrong to violate that principle. This is what it means for something to be a principle in the first place. As Binswanger states it, a principle identifies an action that is required by the facts at hand. To violate a principle is to act as if what is required were not required, a contradiction. The oft-heard excuse, just this once, means it's safe to accept just this one contradiction. But accepting a contradiction undercuts the whole structure of one's knowledge. It forces a puzzle piece into a space it does not fit, spoiling the...
So this is similar to, when we talk about, the left, the no principles, just positions. And this is taking that to the extreme and saying that if you have exceptions, then you may as well not have principles at all.
Overall picture and leaving no place to put the right piece. Thus, for Dave to maintain that libertarians ought not insist that it is always wrong to violate the N.A.P, he must either prove that intellectual dishonesty is a virtue, or he must disprove the N.A.P and show that those people should therefore not be libertarians in the first place.
And so notice we have a debate prompt with all. So all libertarians must do this. So all he has to do is show one libertarian that would be considered a libertarian that doesn't fall. That one example. That's why, it's hard to debate these always or none or never, any of those things. Quality said, quote, either the N.A.P is a non-aggression principle, if you guys are not familiar. Either it is perfect in all situations ever, or it's useless. Response, either you have never been wrong, Ginger Vosh, or you are always wrong. I like that. I like it.
I have already intimated that intellectual dishonesty is a vice, but allow me to explicate that point further. Intellectual dishonesty requires that one is attempting to cheat reality for some imagined gain, but this relies on the premise that one's desires, whims, one's conscious action has primacy over existence. But the very opposite is the case. Existence has primacy over consciousness. The alternative is nothing more than a stolen concept fallacy. Consciousness means consciousness of something, of existence. Thus, existence is logically prior to consciousness, and consciousness cannot be the primary. A vice is that which is anti-reality. Evasion. Evasion is the active disintegration of concepts. turning one's consciousness away from its objectively proper role in perceiving reality and towards imagining up a fancy world inside one's head.
Shout out to Behave in the building. Welcome to the party over on the vertical stream. Again, guys, if you are on the vertical stream and you don't like vertical, we have the exact same stream landscape. Just hit the pinned link. We have Dave Smith and Liquid Zulu debating that the non-aggression principle should always be followed under every circumstance. Welcome to the party. We got Dave Smith, Liquid Zulu with the bad camera.
Any endorsement of the primacy of consciousness is necessarily a vice, so intellectual dishonesty is a vice. So much for intellectual dishonesty. Dave's other escape hatch is to disprove the N.A.P, thus showing that libertarians ought not insist that it is always wrong to violate the N.A.P, because they shouldn't be libertarians in the first place. On this, I point you towards my argumentum e contrario, which proves the N.A.P to be true. First, the problem that law tackles is that given the fact of scarcity, conflicts are possible. So how should a man deal with conflicts? There are three possible answers. 1, the law of the jungle, do what thou wilt, might makes right, don't bother with the question, etc. 2, the non-aggression principle, avoid conflicts. And 3, mixed law, something in between these two. Both the law of the jungle and mixed law are false because both...
I was going to say sound good to me, but he's saying it's false, so let's see why.
3, mixed law, something in between these two. Both the law of the jungle and mixed law are false because both reduce into the primacy of consciousness. Thus their only remaining option, the N.A.P, must be the true principle of law. In summary, I hold that libertarians ought to bite the bullet and support zero restrictions on public property, and insist that it is always wrong to violate the N.A.P. We ought bite the bullet because it is both competent debate strategy and a requirement of intellectual honesty, which is a virtue. We ought support zero restrictions on public property because it would destroy the state overnight and lead to a world which is much more compliant with the N.A.P. And we must insist that it is always wrong to violate the N.A.P because it is a true principle and dishonesty is a vice.
All right. Thank you, Zulu. Dave, go ahead and give us your opening statement.
Guys, just pro tip. If you, when you're done with your opening or closing statement, or a timed a piece, and you're not using all the time, just say I concede my time, so we don't have 5 seconds of just... Is he done?
Sure. Well, thank you to both of you guys for doing this. I appreciate it. I think let me just start by saying, Zulu, like I think that I think you're a very good libertarian. And I think that I saw the video, the only video I've watched of yours that was not about me was the one that you had that went viral. Or I don't, not that it's the only one, but it had like 500,000 views. And it was you tearing apart socialism and quoting Ludwig von Mises and all this stuff. And I thought it was really good. And I just wanted, like, you've obviously said some things that I find disrespectful about me that I think are out of line and wrong, but like, I do appreciate that you're a young guy who's spreading these ideas. I think that was like, even just what you put together right there was very impressive. I just see a whole lot of holes in it. I hope we can talk about that in the show. But I guess my opening would be this.
Already, I just am more... I mean, obviously I'm biased because I love Dave Smith. So putting that out there. I am biased. Oh, where is it? Oh, I am biased. I like Dave Smith. I don't know much about Zulu at all, but I do try to be as unbiased as I can. And already you're seeing a level of the way that they speak. The way that they speak is indicative of how they think. And so being more casual in your speaking without having to fancy it up is you should be if your point is good, you should be able to explain it to a 5-year-old. Shout out to Adam, the captain of the Moral Felon Crew, starting us off with the $2. Oh, sorry, Mark. The $2 making you holla. That's right. Every single donation comes with a treat for Morty and does add to the Morty Memorial Fund. Thank you so very, very much getting us started. We are close to $1,000 for when my friend here, unfortunately, passes. Braxis, welcome. I'm too skinny to have a bias. All right, well, guess what? Where is it? God damn it. Every $2 is another push-up. So, book me up. Look how puny. I'm pathetic. I need your help. Send me the money. Welcome.
About that in the show, but I guess my opening would be this. Did either of you guys, you ever seen or read Mozart Was a Red? Do you know what I'm talking about? What? It's Murray Rothbard wrote a play about his experience with Ayn Rand. And it's pretty hilarious, at least I thought. And it's one of the things, like the character that plays Ayn Rand is like Murray Rothbard comes to her apartment because he had written her a letter saying how great Atlas Shrugged was. And like he sits down and the Ayn Rand character is like, would you like a cigarette? And he's like, oh, no, thank you. I don't smoke. And she goes, what do you mean you don't smoke? And she's like, why not? And he goes, I don't like it. I don't know. And she goes, you allow your subjective whims to dictate your decision making or something. And anyway, he's needling Ayn Rand. And the point is that a lot of people just in the objectivist tradition get into this habit of pretending that very clearly subjective things are objective statements, that they are deducing from first principles and their unified theory of everything when they make a claim like,
thank you so much. Welcome to the party.
Embarking on a bad strategy, or he's bad for the movement. When that is so clearly, obviously, almost, look, even if any of us have an opinion on what the right strategy is to get from wherever we are now into anarcho-capitalism, it is so obviously not an objective fact what any one strategy is. Who the hell knows? I mean, I likely think it's a better strategy to run Ron Paul people than Gary Johnson people, but I don't even really necessarily know that that's the case. In fact, it could be a bad strategy for us to wake people up to all of this to begin with. Maybe the end result of it is that the state just crushes all of us and people still don't believe in liberty anyway. But yet you can spin these things as if they're objective claims. And I don't think that that's right. Now, I think, so one of the points you made, or something similar to this in your video about communism, I believe, in fact, you started by saying something along the lines of like, what a lot of libertarians have said before, like there's this line about how communism works really good on paper, but doesn't work in the real world. And of course, like every libertarian or any person with any conception of like philosophy at all immediately goes like, no, dummy, that's not what that means. If it works on paper, then it works in the real world, right? Like that's the idea of on paper. The idea of theory is that it works in the real world. So what's like a more accurate thing.
Okay, I think he's about to say what I'm thinking is that it seems like it works on paper, or it looks good on paper, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is good.
That the communist could say, or that the liberal could say, would be, it sounded good to you in
Got
theory,
him!
but
Got
it doesn't
him!
work in practice. And the only reason it sounded good to you in theory is because you missed these 5 or 17 glaring holes that other people have pointed out, and it's not actually good on paper. Well, in the same sense, if when you build something, like I know Zulu and a bunch of people, I think in his camp, took offense to when I said that if I believed libertarian principles led to this, I would simply abandon libertarian principles. Even though I was saying I don't believe libertarian principles lead to this, I was saying if they did, I would abandon it. But I mean, take that to its logical conclusion. If any set of principles that you believed were true, or any theory in like you believed is true, let's say when put into practice, was going to result in all of us dying this instant. Obviously, there's a crazy scenario, but let's say that was the case. Are you saying you wouldn't abandon that theory? Well, the point is that there is a truth to what the fruit of something bears. And that's also an observable truth. And if the fruit of something is obviously a complete disaster that defeats the entire purpose of philosophy to begin with, then clearly the answer isn't, I was right about everything on paper, and then I put it, the answer is, I'm missing something here. And likewise, I would say that I think like 99.99999% of all human beings would just understand on some basic level that if this whole debate's about biting the bullets, and of course you're not actually biting any of those bullets exactly in that opening at least, but if you're really saying the shit I've heard you say, or as I've seen people say that you say, if you're saying essentially that you wouldn't steal a penny to save your mother's life, that there's no human being in your life who you would say like that type of religious devotion to the non-aggression principle, which is what you're talking about there. Dare
we say dogmatic adherence? Dogma will destroy your brain.
I mean, that is a fruit that if that's what your theory bears, I think the correct response is to go, I have to go re-examine my theory for such self-evident reasons. Like anybody, it's more that belief, like if taken to its logical.
Again, guys, real quick, I'm not gonna keep stopping to say that I'm not gonna keep stopping it, but there's a lot here that we want to get through, so I'm not gonna be as in the chat as usual. But if you got something good, pull it up and stop the show.
Anybody, it's more that belief, like if taken to its logical conclusion, right? Whatever the Mars, space laser or whatever. So we could draw it down to stealing a penny, and let's just say that, like, for a fact, you knew that the Martian wasn't just going to kill your kid or whatever; they were going to torture them to death. And you're saying you wouldn't steal a penny, or that we should say in that case you don't steal a penny because that's aggression? That isn't in the realm of a libertarian legal theory anymore. That is,
and like, okay, you can say that, yeah, okay, well then you're not really principled as a libertarian. Like, okay, but how that only matters as far as what happens in the world.
In the realm of I mean, maybe the worst version of ideological capture I've ever heard. Just religious devotion. And since you started off with your scripture, and we're on a Christian show here, I would say that, Jacob, I'm not like a religious expert, and I have a feeling that there are a lot of religious experts who probably have a pretty good answer to how the thou shall not steal thing doesn't actually mean you got to let your whole family burn before you steal a thing. I think, in fact, in Christianity, there's a whole system of just like apologizing or something like that. But anyway,
confession, right? You just go and you know that you did something wrong, and there is a built-in thing for that, because the notion that people could be perfectly adhering to a one single principle throughout their whole life, with the complexity of life, is like that's not realistic. Shout out to Bear Zerker. I like that. Welcome. We got another landscaper. Shout out to the landscape crew. Welcome.
There's a whole system of just like apologizing or something like that. But anyway, I'm pretty sure that both in Judaism and Christianity, what you'll find laced all over the place as God's like most central commandment is do not worship anything else except me. Do not make anything else your religion except this. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, because when you make anything else your religion, it's always going to get perverted. So like, look, you can believe in the non-aggression principle. You can also be a human being and understand things like, for example, if I were to like, or someone cheating on their wife, I don't think any of us would say is a violation of the non-aggression principle. Shoplifting is, but I don't think any of us would say that like shoplifting is more. Maybe Zulu would, but I don't think anyone else would say that shoplifting is like a worse moral crime than cheating on your wife, right? So like in the same sense, isn't it pretty obvious?
There's levels to this shit.
Than cheating on your wife, right? So like in the same sense, isn't it pretty obvious? Isn't it even pretty common sense to just say that like, look, I believe in the non-aggression principle. I think it's like a foundational civilizing principle.
Mm-hmm.
It is the principle of civilization. And we have civilization to the degree for in 99% of cases when we have non-aggression. But
thank you so much for the likes, guys. As I said, that really does help.
There's also a principle that like I have to do absolutely anything within my power to protect my children.
Yep.
And that's actually a principle that rises far beyond the non-aggression principle. In the same way that, like, if I got in a fist,
that's the core of this. Is that, are you a true libertarian? Are you the most libertarian there ever is? Or does that maybe make you lesser of a person, less moral of a person, to just stick by your principle for the sake of sticking by your principles and letting the people you love die?
Fight at a bar. It's not the same thing as me like abandoning my wife and kids. Like it's just it's a much more powerful moral principle, because the world is complicated, man. And actually, like Ayn Rand did not figure it all out, and she was a genius. But like the worst part of her was insisting that you have to accept her entire unified.
You think that he just said that I don't like not being able to? Is that what you think he said? Okay, shout out to Zulu for the big brain take.
Like the worst part of her was insisting that you have to accept her entire unified theory of everything. There's life is complicated. We don't know everything that's going on here, and we can't deduce all of it from first principles in a perfect logical chain. We can deduce some things, and like those are important, and we could get into some of the specifics of what you said here. I'll wrap up, but like.
And anything that can be addressed by sticking to your first principles obviously should. But the point is, life ain't that simple. It's not that black and white.
Guys, every day, at the end of the day, we all have to collapse and hallucinate for like 7 hours and go to like a different zone. And none of us know why exactly that is. There are mysteries about this world. There are things we don't know, but there is something so obviously anti-human, more anti-human than the worst environmentalist.
Fucking environmentalists. Lone Cell being a libertarian in America is basically virtue signaling, capital L libertarian. With the lowercase, it just means, a much broader, like, just leave me alone, man. I just want to do what I want to do. You do you, and I'll do me. That kind of thing. So, capital L, agree. Lowercase L, disagree.
Obviously anti-human, more anti-human than the worst environmentalist, about saying that what we ought to believe is that you should allow your family to be slaughtered before we would steal a penny. And I'm sorry if like you think that's unfair for me to frame that, but like, from what I understand, your challenge to me was, you're too much of a coward to debate me. I will bite all of these bullets in front of you and show you how it's a good debate strategy. And like, I would just say, again, how do you define a good debate strategy? You're trying to persuade the audience to your cause. I would venture to say that biting that bullet is not going to be a great strategy to persuade people. Anyway, happy to get into any of the specifics.
All right.
So now we're going to move into the open kind of dialogue back and forth. I'm going to try to be as quiet as I can be. I'll interject if I feel like maybe I can ask a question that moves what they're talking about along, or if I feel like one person's dominating too much, or if there's just too much crosstalk. But Zulu, maybe do you want to start us off by, do you have like a question or rebuttal or just something you want to raise to Dave, and then we'll just kind of go from there?
Sure. So it seems like you're making this claim that there are these extra theoretical factors that come in.
Wait, yeah, okay, hold on, because they are gonna get into this. Liberty said we all realize it's illegal to steal a penny to save the world, right? Yeah. What don't you get? It's worse to let the world be exploded than it is to steal a penny, even though it is illegal. Shout out to HR Death Poet. Welcome to the party. What do you mean Gen X Live? This whole thing is Gen X. All of you guys are Gen X. All of them are Gen X. I don't know what you're talking about. Welcome to the party.
Making this claim that there are these extra theoretical factors that come in and kind of overrule the libertarian property theory in some sort of some cases, like, oh, this is a principle of protecting my family that rises above the N.A.P, or this principle over here rises above the N.A.P. So do you like what is the standard for discovering those extra theoretical factors?
Well, and so here we get into specifically why I saw myself in this debate with Jim Bob, because he's saying, oh, you don't have a standard for this. Okay, I can't tell you where the standard is to say, okay, we should follow the non-aggression principle, but if there's something that goes beyond here, like we talked about the loved ones or saving the world, then it is okay, because the principle that you hold is not, I must stick to the non-aggression principle. It's the other way around. You want, the world that you want, thus you stick to the non-aggression principle. And when that doesn't fit, like, you can save the world if you steal a penny, then it is better morally to do an illegal act.
Standard for discovering.
I mean, this is as basic as the whole, like, is it immoral to steal bread for your starving family? Like, that is day one shit. What do you mean?
Here it rises above the N.A.P. So do you like what is the standard for discovering those extra theoretical factors?
Well, it's fun, even in the question there, it's like, look, there's just some, like, in general in life, right? There are some things that are quantifiable, like me and you are like a certain distance from each other right now, and there is a correct answer to that. And there are some things that are not, like measure how much Jacob loves his kids. Like, I don't know. It's not. So I don't know that I'm
and because you can't measure how much, I'm assuming the moderator's name is Jacob, because you cannot measure how much someone loves their kids does not mean that they don't love their kids. And so relevance being that Zulu is saying, well, you can't quantify or give me a hard standard on when we should abandon the non-aggression principle for something higher. And he's biting the bullet and saying, yes, you are right. But that doesn't change the fact that sometimes it is better to go against the non-aggression principle. Usually not, but circumstances exist.
Much Jacob loves his kids. Like, I don't know. It's not. So I don't know that I'm proposing that. I'm not sitting here and saying, hey, I am the newest philosopher who is making a major addition to libertarianism here. And
right. In the same way, when I was debating Jim Bob, I wasn't saying, guys, I have all of the answers on secular morality. I was just making a different argument. And just because I don't have a standard doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
I have an objective standard over whether these things, like where it can be override. I'm actually much more consistent with the libertarian literature that's been around for a while. There's a whole other element to libertarianism that isn't just the theoretical deductions, which is the enforcement idea. And a lot of libertarian theorists have written about this. Obviously, like, libertarians have always argued for private court systems and private police systems. There would be some system of enforcement. And the truth is that the obvious answer to this scenario, right, is, first of all, no, I don't not steal a penny to save my children. I steal $1 million to save my children, and then I guess maybe I go to jail for that. Or maybe I try to plead my...
Right. So you're saying it is illegal, thus I deserve to be punished by the law. What's immoral about that? What's inconsistent about that?
Steal $1 million to save my children, and then I guess maybe...
As you should. If you're not willing to steal money to save the life of your child, you're a pretty fucked up individual.
go to jail for that. Or maybe I try to plead my case in court. So in other words, I don't have an objective standard. I don't know that there is one, but there would be some type of court system where you could plead your case to other people and they could say, hey, we're talking about extenuating circumstances here. You know what I mean? Like there's no theory ever, any political theory, that when put into practice, there won't be areas of just like, it's a judgment call. Let's use common sense. You know, there could be an example of trespassing, but you didn't put up a sign and you didn't have a fence and you didn't say private property. So there was no way for this guy to reasonably know that he was trespassing. That's not exactly consistent with libertarian philosophy, but like it's a situational. So I don't need to have an objective standard to this to just know that the obvious is true. Still,
I really wish you guys would start spamming this emoji. Like when, you know, I would love for this to be our thing. You guys know I use that emoji all the time. Like, just saying. Just saying.
Money and save your kids or your grandma. Can I ask you a question now, man? Because I honestly almost feel like I'm being trolled with this shit. Like, is your sincere position, like, forget this debate, just like us.
This is where I saw, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, he can debate. He can give you all the answers on why he is correct, but don't make no fucking sense.
Trolled with this shit. Like, is your sincere position, like, forget this debate, just like us as dudes, are you like, I understand you're young, you don't have a family of your own yet, I'm guessing, but there's no one in your life that you like love enough? Are you saying there is, like, you'd allow your own mother to be tortured to death before you stole a penny? Is that actually your position?
Yeah, so basically the way I view reductio ad absurdum, this is just what I think they achieve, is it saying, hey, is there an exception to your thesis here? Is your principle actually a principle, or is there some exception to it? That's really what they're asking. And it's perfectly valid to say, no, there is no exception to the theory. And so let's take, like, for
instance, can we agree that that's fucking crazy? Can we agree that willing to let the world get blown up so that you don't steal a penny is crazy? Can we agree that letting your mother be tortured so that you don't steal a penny, so that you stick to your principles? Maybe those are not good principles to have if that's where it leads. It's moral to steal. You shouldn't steal. That's all Zulu's argument is. But that's not what he said. No, now we have the hypothetical of would he do that? Would he do that? Shout out to Sublime. Said it's not crazy, but more retarded. I mean, hey, pick your word. It's just out there. It is out there.
This is here. Is your principle actually a principle, or is there some exception to it?
Did I skip ahead?
That's really what they're asking. And it's perfectly valid to say, no, there is no exception to the theory.
Okay.
And so let's take, like, for instance, the Martians are going to blow up the planet. Like, the aliens come in and they're like, hey, you got to steal this penny. Let's imagine this, like, actually literally happening in real life. Okay, well, so then there's this massive interstellar fleet. They must be like a hyper advanced alien race to even have that fleet in the first place. It would probably cost way more resources than have ever been obtained by humanity in the history of humanity to send them here. And their demand is they come up to me and they say, hey.
Wow. Equality said any system devoid of common sense should be abandoned. And I went to, just copy and paste that into our chat so we could see. And YouTube rejected your comment. What?
To send them here.
But
and their demand is they come up to me and they say, hey, go steal a penny. So, okay, well, let's imagine that literally happening. First of all, clearly these are highly irrational beings. So the question I would have is, well, how did they even get any of this stuff in the first place? Because you can't get that if you're irrational.
How would you feel if you didn't eat yesterday, Zulu?
No. So maybe they had this stuff and then they, like, ethically regress or something. Okay. But then if they are this irrational, this heavily irrational, well, then actually I have no way to know that they're going to stick to their word at all. It might be, hey, the Martians come.
That's not the hypothetical. The hypothetical is your mom will be tortured unless you steal 1 penny. Those are the parameters. You're trying to add in extra stuff. It's a hypothetical specifically to talk about that instance. Would you steal the penny or would you let your mother be tortured to death? Those are the options. For the Mr. Black and White, yeah, come on, man. What are we doing? And again, saying, yes, I would do that, but it's okay that I would do that because of XYZ. Again, that, to me, is biting the bullet. Shout out to Mr. Alley Cat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So this problem has been solved already. You use a Mac to... what? What? From me or from him? I'm going to assume that's for him, and that is for me. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party.
They're going to stick to their word at all. it might as well just be, hey, the Martians come, and you've got no way to stop them. It's like, okay, well, then I just have no way to stop them. Because let's imagine this.
Yeah, but hold on. First of all, this isn't the question I asked you, and this doesn't sound very bullet biting for that to have been your whole pitch to me here. But like, no.
Shout out to More God's Hammer over on Rumble. Welcome to the party. Again, said like and share, guys. Thank you so much. That really, really, really does help. And again, it doesn't even matter if you think anybody's going to click on the link. Just by you telling the platform you want more people to see it, they will show it to more people. Thank you, and welcome to the party. Said Dave Smith rules. Hell yeah.
Sound very bullet biting for that to have been your whole pitch to me here. But like, no, I'm asking a very specific question though, which isn't what you're answering me. I'm saying, do you actually feel that way as a person? Like, is there no one in your life who, if there was this situation where, and whatever, dude, the point obviously of biting this bullet isn't how likely the scenario is or what the real world logistics of it all are. Just saying.
How would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast yesterday?
There was a scenario where the person you love the most in the world was going to get tortured to death, and you could steal a penny or $1 to stop it from happening. Like, I thought the whole call was that you will bite that bullet to my face. So like, are you actually saying you believe that and you would do that with someone you love?
Yes, I believe it would be immoral to steal a penny or rape a baby or anything.
Wait, what? Or pay a baby? What are you talking about? So you legitimately think that it's okay to let your mother die because you don't want to steal a penny? That sounds pretty gay. Pretty gay. Shout out to Josh Crumb. Welcome to the party. Said, I need your advice. Well, come on and join the Discord, and we could chat about whatever you like. Liberty agrees with Zulu. All right. Fair enough.
You love.
Yes, I believe it would be immoral to steal a penny or rape a baby or any other aggression. I believe that would be immoral, yes.
What? No, that's not my question. I asked, would you do it? I'm asking, would. My question is so clear. Would you?
I don't think you should do that.
That's not what he's asking you. We all agree that you should not steal. We all agree that stealing is illegal and immoral. That is not the question. Would you do something illegal to save the life of your mother, knowing that she's going to be tortured to death? This isn't a complicated thing.
But, well, technically, both are immoral, so...
Shut up!
So you'd allow the person you love the most to be tortured to death before you stole $1 so that you could be committed to your philosophical principle of it always being wrong to steal $1, so that you would have a coherent worldview.
Yes.
That's insane. That is insane. I'm with Sublime. I'm stealing all the money required. Maybe a little extra to make sure. That is insane. The life, I'm in Zulu's position. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. I got Morty. That's about it. I mean, obviously, I got my parents and my extended family. But in terms of that, I can't understand how you can see that as a moral position. So I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen. I've changed my mind in debates in the middle before, but I don't get it. Liberty said, if your only exception is your preferences, it's not particularly relevant to objective truths and morality. Disagree. Completely disagree.
Being wrong to steal $1 so that you would have a coherent worldview.
Yes.
So let me go into feel good about your own coherent worldview. You'd allow the person you love the most in the world to be tortured to death. That's the position that you want to debate here. And you don't see how maybe someone could think you're just a religious zealot. This is insane.
If you're positing that's aggression, I've got to commit aggression, then yes, I would not nuke Ohio in order to save.
Dude, I don't.
Bro, what do you mean nuke Ohio? We said steal a penny. This is who you guys are riding for? I thought this was Mr. Big Brain. What the fuck? What the fuck? Shout out to DJ Isolated. Welcome to the party. So what's going to tick me off about this? Well, it's two libertarians arguing about the non-aggression principle. So probably the whole thing. Equality said a penny can be repaid. A life cannot be restored. Common fucking sense. Exactly. More God's Hammer said, wowzers, is this guy bonkers? I can see sacrificing oneself for principles, but another innocent person?
Bingo.
Yep. Well, I get to be the great libertarian. My mom got tortured to death, but I'm the truest libertarian there is. What? Shout out to Giggling Spy. Welcome. Said, whoever I'm stealing that penny for that reason, would understand and agree with the stealing.
Bingo.
Yep. But no, we have to have our principles, otherwise nothing makes sense. Maybe your principle should be, no matter what my politics are, my family matters more.
Then yes, I would not nuke Ohio in order to save.
Dude, I don't dislike you enough. Despite the shit you've said about me, I don't dislike you enough to believe that you're telling the truth, dude. Like, I just don't want to believe that, because it is, dude, there is just something so fascinating to me, man, about, and this is, I know it hurt all of you guys' feelings, and maybe fairly so. Like, maybe I was wrong. Look, I really do genuinely want to try to be as good faith and charitable in this debate as I can. I'm not here to try to fucking destroy you or anything like that. Dude, I think, honestly, my feeling with this shit,
didn't try to. Remember, we were talking about harm, right? The intent was not to harm, but the intent is based on outcome. And shout out to Kai. Welcome to the party. There are two libertarians arguing about the non-aggression principle and whether it should be adhered to dogmatically, or is life complicated enough that there are some exceptions. And I just saw this. God damn it. Hold on, give me a second. Boom. So whoever was just asking, Sublime asked, do I have a Twitter? And indeed I do. IndianJesus off, like official. IndianJesus off. Welcome to the party, guys. Let's dive right back in.
Try to fucking destroy you or anything like that. Dude, I think, honestly, my feeling with this shit, I don't know if you saw this, Jacob. The other day, I just gave Alex Berenson a lot of credit and sent a bunch of fucking people. I just sent fucking hundreds of thousands of people to Alex Berenson's goddamn Substack. Even though he's called me a Holocaust denier, and he's been totally shitty to me, but just because, God damn it, he just broke the story that Moderna covered up a kid that died in the trials of the COVID jab. This is such an insane story. So what, at the end of the day, you got to care more about the thing that actually matters here, which are the issues we care about, than our own egos. And so Zulu, I look at you, I go, dude, you reached 500,000 people breaking down the price calculation problem of socialism, and I bet there's a whole bunch of people you reach to I can't reach, in that group who you're talking to. And that's amazing, dude. I want you to be successful in this. I want you to do as much as you can. So I'm not trying to own you here, but look, there is something about the people, I know you guys got upset that I said you're worse than communists. I don't know. Maybe that wasn't the right way to say it.
I mean, are communists out here saying, yeah, let mommy burn? Well, I guess they are. So I did just drop a poll on the Landscaper stream. Come on over if you want to be involved. I just asked, is it sane to let your family be tortured to death so that you don't have to steal a penny? Yes, I'd save my family, or no, I'm sticking to my principles. Let me know what you think. We got Callan in the building. Welcome. Said God is man-made propaganda. No debate here. Dilly to that. Speaking of which, guys, I have a debate tomorrow that religion and tradition are more important than science. I'm on the for side, so I think you guys will enjoy. But welcome to the party, Callan. Let's dive back in.
I know you guys got upset that I said you're worse than communists. I don't know. Maybe that wasn't the right way to say it. I've been thrust into this position where I'm the libertarian who's on all these big shows. I don't know if I always do a perfect job representing us. I try my best. I think I do pretty.
But this is the point of a hypothetical, is to get rid of all the complexities and just get down to the principle itself. So we know all of when we make up a hypothetical, the parameters are in the hypothetical. So there's no other context to this hypothetical. If it were to happen in real life, then yes, but that's why we're using a hypothetical.
I don't know if I always do a perfect job representing us. I try my best. I think I do pretty good. But can you understand the worse than communism thing? The point I'm making here as you say this right now, and it really is, this is why I said it's anti-human, like an environmentalist. Don't you just understand that that is the core of humanity, just the decency in every single person, the natural instinct that you're going against here. You can never claim that this is part of the natural order in any meaningful sense.
Yeah, and let's not misunderstand that, yes, Dave is making an emotivist, subjective argument. That doesn't mean it's wrong.
This is the idea. We are all so hardwired on the deepest level to know that we would die for the people that we love, that we would protect them. That's the best of civilization. It's the best of masculinity. The idea that we're supposed to accept that.
Okay, so if they say, no, it's not okay that you stole to save my life, then you would let your mother die. That's crazy, bro. That's insane.
masculinity. Like
it might be philosophically consistent. Good job. You're philosophically consistent, but you let your mother die. What are we talking about?
Protect them. That's the best of civilization. It's the best of masculinity. Like the idea that we're supposed to accept that because you want to stay consistent in your worldview, you allow the people closest to you to meet their demise in the worst, most grueling way.
Specifically because you're positing it has to be aggression for the reduction, right? That's what I'm saying. So
yeah.
Again.
Because that's the whole point. If we're saying, well, you can fix this without aggression, then that's not part of that has nothing to do with the debate. Obviously, we're saying there's a non-aggression principle. When it is feasible, you should try to solve conflict with anything besides aggression. That doesn't mean that there are no situations where aggression is not warranted and perhaps necessary.
Aggression for the reduction, right? That's what I'm saying. So
yeah.
Again.
But the
hold on.
Well, let's have Zulu respond.
Sure.
Because you posit it has to be aggression. So you're posing it has to be aggression, and then you're saying, okay, well, I guess the N.A.P fails here. But let's say it's a bank teller.
Okay, death vote. Switch it out for instead of family. Switch it out. No. Switch it out for Morty. Would you let? Is it sane to let Morty, this poor old dog? Is it sane to let him be tortured to death so that you can stick to your principles and not steal one penny?
Saying, okay, well, I guess the N.A.P fails here. But let's say it's a bank teller, and a person holds a gun to their head and says, hey, go empty the cash register for me. You could look at that and say, oh, that's definitely aggression for the teller to be stealing this money and giving it to this thief. But also, maybe that's not aggression, right? Is that aggression? I think the person who's holding the gun is the one actually committing the aggression there. So that's why I was trying to analyze the Martian scenario. And like another thing is, if this literally did happen, the aliens came, I posit that there are 0 people on planet Earth who I could steal a penny from. I think that nobody would reject me taking that penny. So then it's actually not possible for me to steal a penny. So then the scenario is just the Martians come in, and they're going to vote for it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, but now you're not biting bullets. But now you're not biting bullets. You're just copping out. Like, okay, so I could come out with another scenario where, like, I don't know. Yeah, like your kids.
But again, you keep coming back to this. I have already bit this bullet that we don't know where the line actually is. We are just saying there is a line where the non-aggression principle will not solve this issue. You are by saying that, you are saying that because you can't say that there's no exception exists. That is not how logic works. Quality said, but it's not philosophically sound because philosophy is meant to serve mankind, to help us grow in wisdom and understanding, to then say, I will so rigidly apply the principle and sacrifice innocence. Yeah, I agree. It's just philosophy for the sake of philosophy. No, I think when I say philosophically sound, I just mean the principle says this, so I'm going to do this. Good for you, bro. Your family's dead.
Come out with another scenario where, like, I don't know, yeah, like your kid's gonna die of starvation, and there's a house with food inside of it that is unattended. You can break in and steal it. Okay, so like I don't know, like forget like a very real world situation.
He keeps trying to get around. Well, technically, in that situation, no. Okay, so you give me a situation where there's 2 options with your family being tortured to death and something that is immoral. That is a low-stakes immoral thing that you would not do, and you would let your family die. How? Okay, maybe that standard we will discover right now. How much money? Everybody's got a number.
And steal it. Okay, so like I don't know, like forget like a very real world situation that could theoretically happen. I mean, I just whatever it is. I mean, I guess to some degree you bit the bullet saying it before, but. Forget all this other stuff. We're not having a conversation about like how it actually would go down when the Martians are coming. It's just the point that like obviously the reason you use these reductio absurdums and the reason you go into these areas is because look, you can say I understand the desire that you guys I kind of was more like this in my
exactly equality, philosophical masturbation. That's exactly what it is. Morty's gone. He's like, oh, they ain't feeding me. Oh, man. What? Dilly.
can say, I understand the desire that you guys, I kind of was more like this in my 20s too. Like there is something like, there's something about libertarian ideas that are so beautiful, and there's something that's so intoxicating about having like this irrefutable, totally complete, unified theory of everything. And so you're basically going like, look, if I concede this, then I don't have this principle 100%, and then your whole unified thing isn't there. But like the point is that
Yep, and this is the same thing that whether you want to talk about leftists or any other dogma, that people have to stick with the inconsistencies and do the mental gymnastics, because it's so central to the core of who they are, that if that becomes wrong, they are no longer the person they thought they were. Shout out to Josiah. Welcome to the party. Hey, shout out to Equality and Deference with the $2 Rumble rant. Yeah, that's for you, Bubba. Come on up here. Come. No? All right. You've pissed him off too much, but maybe we can get back in his good graces. Please, will you take our treat? Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you so very, very much. We got a new co-sponsor of the stream. Guys, remember, we got an extra special treat for Marty if we hit the goal. And I have to do a push-up for every $2. I am puny. Please help me out. Thank you so very, very much.
well, 100%, and then your whole unified thing isn't there. But like the point is that, as with every moral principle, there are times where there are conflicting principles, and there are lots of things going on, and it doesn't really cancel it out. Like it doesn't cancel out the non-aggression principle to say that I would commit aggression in some acts, and in fact, I can still say that I believe that ought to be the legal order. But it's just like, yeah, obviously there are some scenarios where actually morality being more complicated than anything that you just like deduced from libertarian literature. There's other moral issues that are more important that might.
Yep. Shout out again to our co-sponsors of the stream. We got Adam and a person with the longest name ever. Equality and Deference, because vagina.
From libertarian literature, there's other moral issues that are more important that might outweigh it. I just think that's a.
Oh my God! Did you guys see the clip? Where he gets trolled? Why is my camera like? There we go. That's better. Did you guys see the clip where Hassan gets trolled on the street with the Kaya picture? We have to watch that.
There's other moral issues that are more important that might outweigh it. I just think it's an immature thing to deny.
Let me ask a clarifying question here to Zulu, see if we can dig into this more. Zulu, can you understand why a father would value
this, I think,
their child's life more than?
All right, hold on. We're gonna back that up. We're gonna get the question here, but first, we must oh God damn it, we must do a side quest. So I just saw this today, and it is amazing.
This, I think, might be the clip of the year. I think this could be it.
Yeah, I don't have my.
He's walking on the street.
Oh, screen photo here. Yeah. Right.
Got him with the Kaya picture. Oh my God.
Can we just screen photo here? Yeah. Right.
Yoink.
Hey, free Kaya.
Yes.
Jesus, I'll tell you what, the power of social media. Nuts, yeah. I'm a bit blown away that people are coming out to say hello to you.
Yeah.
Well, it's great. Like, it's dead.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know. He thinks it's a good thing. Oh my God. And he just pulls it out too.
Here. Yeah. Right.
Cooked.
Hey, free Kaya.
Jesus, I'll tell you what, the power of...
Shout out to Kaya. Oh my goodness. Oh, look what we got here. Adam said there can be only one. So that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you so very, very much, guys. That is 3 out of 15 super chats of any amount to hit the goal. Oh, well, there we go. Thank you. So very, very much. See, why is this like that? Where should be like that? There we go. That looks better. That looks better. All right. Thank you, sir. And of course, new sponsor of the stream.
Zulu, see if we can dig into this more. Zulu, can you understand why a father would value their child's life more than a penny or a dollar, or heck, even $1 million? Right? Like, can you understand?
I understand why they think that. Like, I'm not retarded, right? I understand why they think that. I'm saying that the proper way to deal with this isn't to go, oh, I guess principles are useless. It's to go in and analyze.
Nobody said that. Straw man.
Here. That's the point.
Sure.
And the thing is, if you get to the situation where you're like stealing,
can I get us timestamp when Dave said anything along the lines of principles don't matter?
What? That's the point.
Sure.
And the thing is, if you get to the situation where you're like stealing food in order to feed your children, I posit that this is like a ethical cold open. It's like, how did we get here? Well, you get there, you get into that.
Bro, just answer the fucking question. It doesn't matter how we got here. It doesn't matter how we got here. We are here. What do you do? That is the question. It's not complicated.
Ethical cold open. It's like, how did we get here? Well, you get there, you get into that sort of deep poverty by not following principles. Indeed, you said it earlier that the world is complicated. Yes, it is complicated. And the way you deal with that complexity is to act on principle. And you don't end up in situations where you're just this bumbling moron who's now I've got to be a parasite on society. I've got to steal all this food in order to feed my children. You don't get there.
I mean, again, this is what I'm saying. You state things that are like generally kind of true as if you're saying an objective fact. It's not an objective fact that the people who are impoverished are there because they weren't living by principles. Yeah, generally speaking, living by principles gives you a better shot at succeeding in life, but also there's just outside acts that happen to people. I mean, what libertarian doesn't know that? How many people have been living reasonably decent lives and have just been crushed by the state? So like, no, it's not true.
Lot.
It's like, again, you're biting these absurd bullets and trying to rationalize backward from that to keep your theory together. But fundamentally, don't we see how backward?
What's most important to Zulu is being right. That's it. Come on.
Word that is. And by the way, I think you're flirting with a bit of a straw man here. I'm not nobody. I'm certainly not. Jacob in any of our conversation has never said therefore abandon principles. That's not the point. It's therefore understand that there are complicated factors and there are areas where there are competing principles. And then also understanding how to deal with the situation we're actually in, which is always, like I'm really not much into these debates these days. That's what I tend to focus on more.
If there are competing principles, let's look at what that actually means. That means there's a
Wait, hold on. Are we? Oh, okay, I did say hi to Josiah. I'm just checking the vertical chat. It's not always there, but always want to welcome you guys. So appreciate you being here.
Prediction. If there are competing principles, let's look at what that actually means. That means there's a contradiction in your moral theory. So like, are contradictions true? Because you're saying that they're competing. This thing is it doesn't negate the N.A.P. It actually does, because now you're in mixed law. You're saying it's proper to aggress sometimes. So unless you're just going to accept that contradictions can be true.
No. See, this is I'm not in mixed law at all. Again, you've got this completely wrong. I never said that the law should be that you're allowed to punch a dude in the face.
Right. He said, despite the fact that it is illegal, I will do it because my family matters more than that stupid, silly law from the state. I'm being hyperbolic, obviously. Having laws against theft is a good idea, but in comparison to saving the life of your children or mother or person you love most, what are we talking about?
We gotta be the best libertarian ever.
That the law should be that you're allowed to punch a dude in the face if he comes up and calls your wife a slut in front of you. I'm saying it's not immoral. And if someone comes up and says that to my wife, I'm going to punch him in his fucking face. Like, I'm saying, then if the cops are called, I kind of expect to be arrested and put in jail. You know what I mean? Like that. I'm not changing what I think the legal system ought to be. That's nothing to do with the argument at all. I'm saying the thing about it is like, if I was going to get prosecuted for stealing money to save my kid's life, like, okay, I'll go serve my time, whatever.
Pizza Boy, welcome to the party. That is a great idea. I'm going to text him right now. It's not Friday, right? What day is it? Wednesday, right? Oh, it is Friday. Well, I mean, he won't be on it this week, but that is a great idea. Welcome to the party. You must have been around for a while if you know that I'm cool with Jesse on Fire. Welcome. I'm a slow boy. Can you briefly sum up each Joker's position so far? So so Zulu with the bad camera over here is saying that we must stick to our principles no matter what, and the non-aggression principle is the principle that he is unwilling to move from. And so in the poll in the chat, Dave gave the situation. So okay, are you genuinely telling me that your mother would be tortured to death unless you steal a penny? You would not do that and let your mother die because it is technically immoral to steal? And he said yes. That's about what's going on. And so the point, it seems like Dave is much more about like, okay, how do we apply the non-aggression principle as best we can to the real world? Whereas Zulu is just focused on, well, I'm the best libertarian ever because I would let my mother die for libertarian principles. That's obviously got my spin on it, but that's what I'm seeing so far.
Money to save my kid's life. If I was going to get prosecuted for stealing money to save my kid's life, like, okay, I'll go serve my time, whatever. Like that is the best legal order. I think libertarianism is the best legal order for reasons, which we could.
Pizza Boy, is he familiar with your username? I'm about to send him the screenshot.
Get into or whatever. But it's not immoral. Morality is a much bigger thing than just our legal theory. Which is all libertarianism is.
What is the literal question that you think that law is answering then? Because I hold that law is a subset of ethics. I think it's answering what you should do with respect to conflicts. What do you think it is answering? If you think you can have a virtuous crime?
Well, essentially, what law is answering.
Well, again, I think stealing the penny to save a child's life is a virtuous crime. But what was the first part of the question?
With respect to conflicts. What you hold that law is a subset of ethics. I think it's answering what
law is a subset of ethics. Yes, okay, I agree.
You should do with respect to conflicts. What do you think it is answering? If you think you can have a virtuous crime.
Well, essentially, what law is answering, I guess, is how force is to be regulated in a given area. I mean, the law is answering, or how force is used without consequences or something like that. But no, of course there can be crimes that could be moral. I mean, like, again, there's extenuating circumstances. This is the reason that we believe in courts and juries and judges and due process of some sorts. This is like, I don't know. Yeah, like there are situationals that you have to look at. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. I just think it's actually more honest. And I think that helps you win debates and persuade people more.
Hold on. So if you're saying that law is just how force is used without consequences, well, then that's just purely in the realm of, okay, well, the state is able to do this without consequences. That is what the law says in this matter. I don't think this is a particularly convincing theory of law. This is called legal positivism. So to just be clear, do you endorse legal positivism then?
Well, I'm just saying, like, I think objectively what the law is what, like, an opinion with a gun. It's the rule of when force will be used against you. I don't know what do you think is wrong about that?
So DJ is saying the N.A.P could only work in a dystopian surveillance state reality, but it wouldn't be people adhering to a noble principle. It would be people fearing being caught violating retarded laws. I agree. And that's why it like, in terms of a life principle, that it's a good principle to have, but it should not be the foremost thing. I'll give you a similar example. I used to think that being a pacifist was the moral position, but then, unfortunately, with Sam Harris. But in one of Sam Harris's books or podcasts, he talked about, well, are you telling me that if you saw somebody drowning and you tried to save them, and the person was like, no, this person's going to drown, you got to fight me or they're going to die, you're not going to fight? I mean, clearly Zulu wouldn't, but I think a normal person would. What? I want you to repost everything. Everything. Repost, share, do all that shit. Again, guys, it doesn't even matter if you think anybody's going to click on the link. It just matters that you tell the platform you like this, and they will show it to more people.
Force will be used against you. I don't know what do you think is wrong about that?
But then, so is libertarianism not making any ethical claim? Is it just saying, well, we think that, what is libertarianism saying then? Is it saying what the law should be? Is that your view?
Yeah, I think libertarianism is a legal theory. Yeah, I think that's right. And yes, obviously, like you
Trump's Trump's fucking up a little bit, but in general, agreed. Welcome to the party.
are correct to a degree that it's like a subset of ethics. I don't disagree with you on that. We're looking essentially, I think I would say libertarianism is the only legal theory that does not institutionalize conflict. So it's the only legal theory where, like, you know, like down to basic, like if the law is self-ownership and non-aggression and private property rights, then
is this based for Rogan?
And it's possible for there to not be conflict. There still can be, but it's possible for there not. But if the legal theory is anything else, you're institutionalizing conflict. So I don't know if that answers your question.
So then if there is this sense in which libertarianism is holding, you know, maybe legal positivism can be fine, whatever. We don't necessarily have to go down that road. But then it is saying what you should be doing. Libertarianism is indeed saying, well, this is how you should operate as far as the law is concerned. But then is libertarianism not claiming that it is indeed immoral to like punch the guy in the face because he said something rude to your wife?
Well, look, again, like these things, I don't think that they're absolutes. And I think like, again, like there's exceptions to every rule. So yes, in a sense, libertarianism is
exception makes the rule. Oh, whoa. What happened? We got Douglas Murray in the chat. Oh, come on. I mean, I'm not going to get into that, but I mean, fair enough. You know, a lot of people seem to think that about Dave, but there's also a lot of other people that they say are better who have not looked so good in debates with Dave. So I'm going to stick with who's right.
There's exceptions to every rule. So yes, in a sense, libertarianism is saying that, yes, you can't do that. That again, it's the same point that I made before. The thing is just that like libertarianism is saying it's immoral to steal. Sure. But then there's a situation where there's just a higher moral calling that is very obvious. It is so very self-evident. It's again, it is as self-evident as saying that if you put your theory into practice, all of us would die this instant. Then you shouldn't put your theory into practice. It's
right. And so this is where it's starting to look a lot like the argument that I was having with Jim Bob, where you say, no, you don't have a limiting principle and you don't have this and you don't have that. But like, I'm already here doing the thing. There are many people like me. And we are trying to politically be on your side, and you're making it very difficult, which is shooting yourself in the foot. And I think Zulu is doing the same thing for himself. Mogas Hammer said, Dave Smith is absolutely correct about the Zionist monsters. I'll let you guys argue that out.
Practice, all of us would die this instant. Then you shouldn't put your theory into practice. It's as self-evident as that.
Let me ask a question here that I think will help maybe both of you understand each other better. So to Dave, you've advocated for peaceful parenting, which I think maps onto libertarianism quite well. They have kind of like a shared premise that if you take initiating force against a peaceful person, and in peaceful parenting, we're talking about children, off the table, and people go, well, then how are you going to discipline your children? Or, or how are you going to run society? And we go, well, when you take force off the table, you kind of open up human innovation to suddenly. Yeah.
When has he ever said this? When, can you give me a clip or something of Dave saying he knows nothing about Palestine? Because I listened to every episode of his podcast, and he knows a lot more than I do, which isn't a high bar, but a lot of people agree, and that's why he's essentially undefeated.
You take force off the table, you kind of open up human innovation to suddenly come
up. All right. So Liberty's saying, I'm pretty sure Zulu would steal a penny to save the earth. But his point is to spread the consistent theory, and I've watched him change his mind on tons of things when presented with good arguments. I mean, but that's not like a deep thing. Like, would you do this? Yes or no? So are you saying he lied? Or are you saying that he doesn't realize the insanity of not being willing to save the earth because of your principle that stealing a penny is wrong?
Table, you kind of open up human innovation to suddenly come up with creative ways to not only solve problems, but prevent sort of conflicts and problems from arising. I think part of what Zulu's trying to say here is that when you find yourselves in a situation where you're presented with this moral dilemma, you're sort of saying like you haven't taken the proper steps to prevent yourself from getting into that situation. And he's sort of, I think, saying in a sort of libertarian sense, if you have the position, no, in that position, it's still immoral, it's still wrong.
Yes.
And I shouldn't steal the penny.
Correct.
You're then going to live your life in a way, according to that principle, where you're not going to put yourself in that position.
Right, but that doesn't apply to a hypothetical situation that we are putting you in. Obviously, we don't want to be in a situation where we have to choose between two bad things, especially if it's about saving the world and theft. But at the end of the day, it is more immoral to not steal the penny and let the world burn versus saving the world and stealing a penny. I mean, again, what are we talking about? Shout out to Joseph. Welcome to the party. Good to see you.
If in a way, according to that principle, where you're not going to put yourself in that position.
Okay,
So,
if you've lived your life without principle and it's all your own fault, everything about the situation you're in is your own fault, and you've been a really horrible person and had no principles, right? Or even imagine like you did really, really horrible things. You know what? I'll even say you murdered people. You've killed several people, okay? And then you allow your own children to be tortured to death before you steal a penny. The worst thing you ever did in your life was allow your own children to be tortured to death.
Well, dilly to that. If your principle allows your own children to be tortured to death, you don't have good principles, or you're not applying them well. Equality said Dave talks about it because he understands history and principles. That's always been my opinion. All right, Nichols then. Jesus fucking Christ. What is wrong with you people? It's a hypothetical, you know it. You're just trying to poke the bear. But if it's more moral to save the world, what's the objective reason? Saving the lives. The objective that human life has more value than a penny or a nickel. That's it.
A penny. The worst thing you ever did in your life was allow your own children to be tortured to death.
And if you want to go and say, well, what's the objective reason for that? And you can't name that. Therefore, there is no objective reason. That is not how logic works. Just because I don't know the answer doesn't mean that the answer does not exist. Just because I don't have an answer to articulate to you specifically does not mean that answer does not exist. Honestly, you don't print pennies, you mint them. There you go.
A penny. The worst thing you ever did in your life was allow your own children to be tortured to death. It's a much graver moral crime to allow your own child to be tortured to death when you could have saved them so easily with the tiniest little infringement on the non-aggression principle or whatever. Like it's just I don't know. It's
well,
like
but can you see a
worse
risk
than murdering somebody?
Can you at least recognize? I think what I'm trying to get at is
maybe not. My voice cracking. I'm pretty sure that's the first time it's ever happened live. Maybe it's not worth it to you. But in order for this to be the case, and then all of the people who are alive, who have agency and have opinions and preferences, it would need, they would all need to agree that we don't want this to save this world. So technically, if you go outside of the hypothetical, then sure. But within the hypothetical, no.
Is that like
worse than murdering somebody?
Can you at least recognize? I think what I'm trying to get at is that like I think Zulu is wary about a risk in what you're saying, which I'm kind of sympathetic to, but the risk is that we're going to open up a sort of.
Oh, sorry.
we're going to open up a sort of. I'm trying to be a moderator here. Okay, give me a break.
No. Sorry.
Yeah. A risk where people are going to say, well, because I can.
Well, I don't know, Adam. What if it was a very rare penny worth millions? Would you give it away to save your mother? Well, it depends on the other context of the. Yes. I don't even really like my mom like that.
A risk where people are going to say, well, because I can just sort of plead for mercy and because there's these conflicts, I'm not going to take personal responsibility to sort of avoid putting myself in these situations we're describing in these reductios. So that's my understanding of his critique, which even though I understand where you're coming from on it, I think he has a valid point. That's why I brought up the peaceful parenting thing, because it reminds me of that sort of, it's the I actually got this from Stefan Molyneux, which is that, prevention is always better than cure. And, I think we would all generally agree with that.
I mean, I'm not agreeing that people ought to do everything they can to not put themselves in really bad situations. I mean, so I don't exactly get the question, but yeah, no, it's
in case anybody didn't know, Dave Smith, his position is not make bad decisions. In case anybody was confused. It doesn't matter to consent, baby.
It's different than the peaceful parenting thing because you're not just talking about taking options off the table. I mean, it's also true that there are really really bad people who are quite successful and really good people who are in dire, horrible situations through no fault of their own. That is also true.
And so I just want to get back at this line of questioning that I had, namely that you're posing some sort of an exception to the libertarian theory that, okay, well, now it's fine to punch this guy, and this is why we have courts and stuff. Well, I mean, then what is the standard used for, like, the judge to evaluate that? It's like, okay, yeah, this is an extenuating circumstance. Like, is this not just a clear contradiction? Like, how does the judge rule on that without just going, okay, yeah, no, there's just a contradiction. It's fine to...
So again, what is going on with this camera? Just because Dave doesn't know the standard does not mean that the standard does not exist.
Punch the guy, and it's not fine to punch the guy. Like, how do you evaluate that? How do you untangle that contradiction?
I mean, the thing about it is, again, as I said before, I'm not presenting that I'm a philosopher who's come to some new libertarian conclusion here. I think this is already kind of handled in the libertarian literature, and I don't see that this really isn't a major problem, except for people who just have this like desire for everything to fit into an objective, unified theory of everything. This,
like the Crucible.
Standards already are like, well, sorry, did you just make me big, or did I lose you guys? Sorry. No, I mean, like, I don't know, like, probably a lot of the standards that are even used in government courts today, as crappy as they are somewhat reasonable. You get a group of, like, even like, I don't know exactly how it would work in a free society. I would say a lot better, almost certainly. But like, even a jury of your peers is not like the worst system ever. You get regular people there, you explain the situation to them, and they have, I think libertarians have always supported like jury nullification when it comes to bad laws, right? So why would...
Yeah, and I agree, Liberty. The whole point is to try to figure it out, though. But if we are arguing that because you don't have an objective standard that it doesn't exist, then you're not going to ever be able to figure out the thing that you're claiming doesn't exist. That's Zulu's argument. He's saying, well, you don't have the standard, and then deducing from that the standard doesn't exist. Instead of saying, well, what is it? Let's figure out what that standard is. Let's try and work that out. Doesn't do that. Oh, come on.
How dare you?
Liberty said, that's what ANCAPs are working toward to fix these contradictions. Fair enough. But I mean, it's gotta make sense. It's gotta make sense, and not stealing a penny and letting the world explode, or your most loved person die is not a world I want to live in.
I think libertarians have always supported like jury nullification when it comes to bad laws, right? So why wouldn't we also support jury nullification for just situations where it's, I don't know, obvious? And
not again, yet, but that's what he's arguing.
And like, the thing is, you're asking for like an objective standard here. I'm the first one to say I don't have one, but even if you haven't come up with the objective standard, it can still be obvious that there needs to be some type of standard. And again, like I said before, within reason is a fine answer for these situations. Like, I don't know, dude, if Cain Velasquez, you guys know that story?
Shout out to Cain Velasquez.
UFC heavyweight champ.
Free Cain! You guys know that story? Former UFC heavyweight champion of the world. His kid's teacher was, diddling, and he went and chased him down and with a gun, and unfortunately hit the stepfather. But I mean, again, everybody was like, okay, yeah, shooting people and murdering people and attempted murder is immoral, but we kind of understand where he's coming from.
That story where he like he was a UFC heavyweight champion, and this guy was molesting his daughter like for like over a year, and he found out, and he like went berserk and I don't know, I think he tried to kill the guy or something. I don't think he killed him, but he tried to. But like in a situation like that, like would I on a jury take that into account? Would I treat that as the exact same, you know what I mean, like aggression as someone who just went and did that to someone? No, of course I would take that into account. That seems obvious.
I do want to clarify, like if somebody is abusing a child over an extended period of time, then the retribution is indeed to abuse them very heavily back, perhaps even up to the point of death. But because they might just die from their injuries, right? But I just want to hammer in on something. You said that you don't indeed have this unified theory for how to solve these things. Okay, but then what does it mean for a theory to not be unified? It means that there exists contradictions in it. Like, is that not just what that means? Because it's not unified.
Well,
it's not
potentially there's a contradictions, but that doesn't mean like, well, okay, so what does that mean? If there are certain contradictions, then doesn't that just lead to the notion that you need more than the N.A.P to drive your morality? That's what it sounds like to me.
Means that there exists contradictions in it. Like, is that not just what that means? Because it's not unified.
Well,
it's not internally consistent. That's what that means.
Well, I mean, I think what it means is that life is really complicated and there are complicated situations. And like I said before, there are competing moral principles. And like, yeah, so if you want to say, does that mean that it's a contradiction? I don't know. I mean, I guess what it means is that strictly speaking, it's not.
Again, here, going back to bite the bullet, Dave could bite the bullet and say, yes, there's contradictions, but that is a problem with the non-aggression principle, not with my take on life or whatever.
No, I mean, I guess what it means is that strictly speaking, it's not a universal moral principle, but you could still say it is the best legal theory. And this is what the law ought to be. And I think there's lots of reasons you could say that. Again, I think that I appreciate the desire to fit everything into a unified theory. I just don't think that you or anyone else has ever really done that and ever really come up with that. And again, I think that you know, there should be, like, obviously I'm not coming out against like you know, like I love Austrian economics. I obviously agree that there are things that we can like a priori deduce and that we can know things from thinking about them logically. But at the same time, we're also operating with our human brain, which is not perfect. And if you do, like, I think people confuse this with like, again, it's black and white, like you're a consequentialist if you say this now. But if your theory produces a result like that, like I have to allow my children to get tortured to death right now over.
Yeah, but that's a pretty big if, right? That's a pretty big if.
A tiny infraction, then the proper response is to save your children's life and go, maybe I didn't think it through well enough. Maybe there's something else to this.
Shout out to Mr. Alley Cat. Welcome to the party. So I don't think there's an issue here, even from a libertarian philosophy. If you violate the N.A.P, you are a criminal and will be such until you pay restitution. Yeah, I agree. And that's, unless I'm stupid, that's what Dave is saying. Is that I don't want to change the laws to say, well, when I feel like it, I'm allowed to infringe upon the non-aggression principle. He's saying the non-aggression principle should be the basis, but because life is complicated, sometimes it is not immoral to step outside of that. And we've given a bunch of examples. The main one being, would you steal a penny to save the world? I don't think it's that complicated. And I'm trying to see what the argument actually is outside of, well, that's not what the non-aggression principle says. Again, I only care about the non-aggression principle because of how it affects society, not the other way around. We must strictly adhere to the non-aggression principle, otherwise society will fall. Those are two very different positions.
The proper response is to save your children's life and go, maybe I didn't think it through well enough. Maybe there's something else to this.
Yeah. Okay. So you said there that
I don't think there's anything to expose there. I think Dave has been very open about the fact that, you know, it's not just the non-aggression principle. He has a big problem with people who are exactly like Zulu, so theoretical that there's no basis in practicality. And so again, okay, great. Maybe Zulu is more adherent to the N.A.P. And then,
well, nobody's really come up with this unified objective theory in this case. Well, then I believe that I have. because like I have my proof of the N.A.P. I have formulated what the N.A.P. is saying, given that proof. And so like which premise is false there? I don't see the false premise.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the false premise would be thinking you can universalize this in every moral interaction. I mean, look, again, like I said before, again, like this is back to my point about, look, every libertarian theorist ever, every genius, brilliant libertarian thinker that we've ever had, I mean, no, okay, maybe this is an overstatement, but just about all of them, Mises, Rothbard, like Hoppe, they've all...
Okay, so let's say that Dave says, okay, you're right, Zulu, I'm not actually a libertarian. Does he still not have the better prescriptions for life? Why is it matter if he's a true libertarian or not? His ideas are what we care about. Whatever the fuck you call them, pretty dorky. Welcome to the party, dirt door man.
Just about all of them, Mises, Rothbard, like Hoppe, they've all dealt with the consequentialist critiques of libertarianism, right? Like I'm not saying that they were consequentialists themselves, but they've all at least at some point addressed the fact that, people say if libertarianism was implemented, it would all be a disaster. But let me demonstrate to you how actually it wouldn't be a disaster and it would work out really well. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have moral principles, but it does at least imply that they recognize that you do got to deal with the argument of what are the consequences of this. Because like I said, taken to its logical conclusion, if the consequence of implementing a theory, even if you thought it was universally proved, if the consequence was we all die immediately, then obviously that's bad theory, right? Like just like the socialism on paper in practice. If it leads to all of us dying instantly, well, why is that proof that it was bad theory? Because
we all
what's
die
the point
instantly
of philosophy to begin with. So understand.
Yeah, and that's exactly what equality was saying. Did I read this one out? Philosophy is meant to serve mankind, to help us grow in wisdom and understanding. To then say, I will so rigidly apply the principle and sacrifice innocent human life is to totally undermine the very point.
Bingo.
Yup. And attract. So Liberty said they want to attract the radicals by pushing out the moderates. Because we all know that the way to get your ideas in politics is to be more radical.
Because what's the point of philosophy to begin with? To understand the world, to understand what's true and moral and what is the good life and all of this, to understand how to think. Well, we can't do any of that if we're all dead, right? So obviously you've got like a flawed theory here somehow. And I don't have to pick it apart and find where the flaw is. I can simply say, if it results in all of us dying, you're wrong. And so
I don't know. I don't know what I would debate him on. I don't know, because like he doesn't talk about like a lot of different, like he doesn't talk about like culture war stuff, which is more where I am. And so like we don't really cross paths on too much. Like there's not a lot that I know well that I would disagree with him. I'm sure it exists. Just because I can't name it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I know that's not what Zulu said. But I don't know. That's a good question. That is a good question, and I'm sorry I don't have a good answer.
Simply say, if it results in all of us dying, you're wrong. And so likewise, I can say, if it results in you have to watch your children get tortured to death when you could have stopped it, this theory is wrong.
Well, if I may, Zulu, there's a super chat here which I think kind of pushes what you're trying to push. This came from August Leo 8368, $50 super chat. Thank you for that. The Dave, if your greatest
Don't
value.
forget, guys, every super chat over here gets Morty another treat, and if we hit that goal, either 15 super chats of any amount or a $50 total, not only does he get a special treat, but I have to bulk up these puny little arms. Help me out, guys. I'm so puny.
8368, $50 super chat. Thank you for that. The Dave, if your greatest value is to preserve your child's life, then why is it not okay to enslave a doctor in order to ensure they are forever healthy, or to force others to protect them on pain of death? Why shouldn't we engage in might makes right?
Because there's other ways to make sure your child is protected from death as best as you can without slavery? What a stupid question.
Well, again, because all of these, I understand that, look, man, you can say like, hey, we have to be philosophically consistent. And I understand the desire people have. There's also things like binary thinking, what psychologists call splitting, where things are always either black or white.
So this is an interesting one. Mr. Alicat said in a libertarian Discord that supported Zulu, they felt they should try the counter reducto. Would you grape, or arpe, as we just say, would you grape another child to prevent the grape of yours? Brutal indeed. But I mean, and again, it's hard. I don't have children, so I don't have a level of this. But I feel like I feel like the answer is no there, because the degree of harm, to that the other child is so much that I don't know. That's tough. That's tough. Well, what do you guys think? I'll make that a poll.
Colleges call splitting, where things are always either black or white, or they're all, so yes, obviously this is the point of being a libertarian. I'm not saying that any of these things should be institutionalized or any of these things should be the law of the land. We're talking about moral claims in extreme extenuating circumstances. So like, why is it not okay for me to enslave a doctor to take care of my kids all, throughout their life to keep them healthy? Well, like, I don't know. I'm not in an extenuating circumstance or anything like that, and I have very reasonable other options. But I don't know, you ever saw like the movie Johnny Q? Or there's the movie, it's a Denzel Washington movie. And the idea is this kid, he's a 90s cheesy drama thriller, but like the idea is this kid needs open heart surgery. I also had a kid who had open heart surgery, so I kind of have a soft spot for the movie. But he goes, they won't, his insurance cuts him off. Probably had some awful anti-capitalist message in there or something like that. But the idea is he gets a gun, he puts it to the doctor's head, and he makes him give him an open heart transplant.
And in that situation, if I had kids and there was no other options, then yes. Angry Amputee said to the poll, the answer has to be yes, because you have to protect your family first, sadly. Interesting qualifier. He just said that is too brutal. Too brutal. Harm befalls the forced pedo too. You would have to allow your own to be harmed to reduce the all-around harm. But again, this isn't pure utilitarianism or consequentialism. To adhere to that, you're correct. But nobody said anything about reducing all of the harm. It has to do with the ranking of the safety of your child versus the harm of doing that to a child. I'm not surprised we're split 50-50. It is. I mean, that's a good thought experiment.
And he puts it to the doctor's head and he makes him give him an open heart transplant right in front of him or whatever. And like, yeah, in that situation, like, no, he wasn't the bad guy in that. I don't know. Like everybody who watched the movie, every human being who watched that movie, libertarian autists, I love you, but maybe not you guys, but every other one who watched that was rooting for that guy. And so again, like to say, this is just another way of saying, yeah, Dave, but you can't universalize your extenuating circumstances, right?
What do you mean now? I'm always stuttering. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm always stuttering.
Yeah, Dave, but you can't universalize your extenuating circumstances, right? That's why they're extenuating circumstances.
That's what the word means.
There are exceptions to things.
But then you are, so on the one hand, you're saying you're rejecting the theory-practice dichotomy, that if it works in theory, then it does indeed work in reality. But then you've got to contend with the theory on some level, because otherwise it's just, oh well, I based on my common sense, which just means the philosophical status quo. That's what that means. It's just I feel like this is probably the case, but you haven't actually got a theory for it.
It doesn't exactly mean that. That's not exactly what it means.
What is common sense?
I mean, it could be something that is deeply kind of written into the souls of all human beings. It doesn't have to just be what the status quo is. And in fact, maybe to some degree, the status quo is influenced by the nature of human beings. If we're talking about the example of allowing your kids to be tortured to death, I don't think that that's something that's just like some top-down status quo or something like that. But I get your point.
I completely agree with Dave there. DJ said, fair enough. If I were forced to do that, I can imagine being traumatized. Well, I would hope so. You know what I mean? I would hope that level of degeneracy would you wouldn't be fine with that. So if I were forced to do that, I can imagine being traumatized, rendering a basket case of a father. The other option is to be of sound mind and heart and better effective in trying to heal my own. It's really tough. I don't know. We're 60-40. We are 60-40. We got 11 people in here. Only 5 people hit the poll. Come on.
Just like some top-down status quo or something like that. But I get.
And shout out to the verticals. 5 people watching, 8 likes. Oh my goodness. And the landscapers, 11 watching and 12 likes. Thank you so very, very much, guys. That stuff really does help.
Something that's just like some top-down status quo or something like that. But I get your point. I get that you go, hey, but like, how do we know exactly when it is a situation, Like, how do we know exactly when it is a situation where it's okay to say that it is moral to there's a more important competing principle, and how do we know when that's not the situation? And
right. So now that we can establish that you shouldn't just stick to the N.A.P. just because it's the N.A.P., now we can discuss, okay, where is the limit? When is it okay to divert from the non-aggression principle? We have to establish that that exception does exist before we can find what it is.
There's a more important competing principle, and how do we know when that's not the situation? And I understand you have a frustration that, like, hey, it just kind of sounds like it's at your whims or whatever, but like in the same sense that, like, let's say in a libertarian society, issues like the age of the driver's license, let's say, or something like that, right? Like how old?
Oh, I thought the moderator. What is that? No, I thought the moderator had one of those Coke bullets. I don't know why I thought that, but I thought, even though that's not even how it works, but that's what I thought.
The libertarian society, issues like the age of the driver's license, let's say, or something like that, right? Like how old should you be when you're allowed to drive a car? And what is the argument? What is your theory for how that works? What is your theory for what age that? How can you prove from objective reality, with the starting premise that reality is objective? How do you prove whether you should have to be 17 or 18 before you drive a car? And the answer is like, well, hold on a second. Let me just say, you cannot actually have a theory or an
You can't, bro. You can't
answer to that and still go, well, obviously a 7-year-old can't drive a car, and obviously a 35-year-old has to be allowed to drive a car. So, in the same sense, maybe I don't have the perfect standard for it, but I can sure as hell tell you that there's a situation where you steal a penny to save your kid's life.
Yep. Again, just because I don't know the answer doesn't mean the answer doesn't exist. This philosophy broness that I see a lot in him, and I see a lot in Crucible people. It's just like you've done very well at understanding argumentation itself and the content itself to be able to have these heady conversations. But like, who are you helping? What are you actually accomplishing except being right?
Yeah, so I reject that. I think that you actually can answer this with the theory. This is based on the theory of guardianship within libertarianism. So the answer is it's not a universal age. It depends on the person. Namely, is that person a child in this respect? Are they able to communicate their will in this respect? Are they able to understand what exactly is occurring here? And that's going to be answered on the individual level. So someone with like severe Down syndrome, well, they might take a lot longer to get there than someone who doesn't have such learning disabilities. But that's the answer. That is the objective answer.
But that's not a theory of anything. That's just saying it's different for different people. Like, yeah, of course. But then at the same time, you have to come up with some type of.
Well, no, I think Dave's point is that there's not an objective standard like it's this age. You're describing a standard that's more of a process.
I think that's an invalid question. I think it's an invalid question to ask, what is the specific age? Just as it's like an invalid question.
Why is it invalid?
Of which races should be purchase firearms? I think that's an invalid question.
I didn't really ask the question. I just said that you kind of have to pick some type of law based on that, and there's no objective answer deduced from pure first principles. That's all. And even your answer there, it's really not, though. I mean, it's just too vague and nothingness. Like, well, I don't know, dude. Like, it's on an individual level. You could tell when the person's ready. Okay, but like that's not a rule that a property owner can enforce on a road or something like that. And so they're going to have to come up with some type of rule for, right? I mean, isn't that in anarcho-capitalist societies the property owner would be deciding what the rules on the road are? I'm imagining there would be some. You are driving big, fast, metal machines around that can hurt people. So, like, again, whatever. I think the point that I'm making is pretty clear. Maybe there's not an objective age here, but you could damn sure say there's an age that's young enough and an age that's too young and an age that's obviously old enough. That's the obvious point here.
My point is I gave the standard. I said it depends on whether they're able to communicate their will with respect to this thing. That is the objective standard. I don't
communicate their will with respect to this thing. What does that mean?
So basically,
right? What is that? What did it say? Communicate
with respect to.
With respect, communicate. That is the objective standard.
Communicate their will with respect. What? Mr. Alicat said, when I hear Zulu, I can tell he has never been married, nor does he have children. Can you tell that for me? Because I've never been married and I don't have children. DJ said, it was only a matter of time a topic would come up, having Liberty and myself clash. Who'd have thunk it would be in the N.A.P of all things? You never know, but that's why we come here, guys, to make sure that we can all be friends, even though sometimes we're going to disagree about some big shit. Right? Yep. Shout out to Lot's daughter. That was the first moment when I was reading the Bible for the first time, where I was just like, What? And I mean, yeah, I guess it got better from there, but that was a hard start.
Said it depends on whether they're able to communicate their will with respect to this thing. That is the objective standard.
I hate that he talks way faster than Dave, so I keep trying to like
communicate their will with respect to this thing. What does that mean?
So basically, for a baby, they have some sort of will, but we have no way of knowing that will. That's why it's all right if your baby's about to crawl off a window to just pull them back, because they have some will. We don't know what that will is. They can't communicate the will. They can't say, "Listen, Father, I would like to kill myself right now by jumping out that window." We can't know that. And by the way, the same standard.
I saw this clip. I saw this part. Yep, Zulu's response is lacking as he gets as much wiggle room as Dave's response had. Listen up!
I would like to kill myself right now by jumping out that window. We can't know that. And by the way, the same standard applies to the man who's passed out in the snow. He might want to die in that snow, but we have no way of knowing that because he's passed out. And that's why it's fine for a paramedic to come along, take guardianship over him, and move him into a hospital to, fix him up.
Yeah, what type of standard is that, man? I got a 4-year-old. He lets me know all the time that it is his will to do something that I'm not going to let him do, and I still use force over him. Literally earlier today, he stood up in the bathtub and started jumping, and I grabbed him, and he said, "Let go of me," and I said, "No, I cannot let."
Let's not forget that we have an entire society of people who want to be the opposite sex, or a sex that doesn't exist,
But they communicated their will effectively.
I want to be a girl. Oh, well, then I guess, according to Zulu, then you're a girl.
And started jumping, and I grabbed him, and he said, "Let go of me," and I said, "No, I cannot let go of you right now." He was very clear on what his will was. That's a nice story if you don't have kids, man, but when you got them, you got a real incomplete theory on your hands there.
DJ said, pretext to the non-aggression principle and many other libertarian ideas is a fundamental misunderstanding or disagreement on the human condition. Say more on this, please.
I'm asserting that this isn't actually communicating his will. He's just kind of speaking. He doesn't understand what is going on.
Again, this is what you guys always do. You claim you have this perfect unified theory, but then it just becomes a circular nothingness. Oh, so now, right, that's not real selfishness. That's not really his will. Let me tell you something. I know my son a lot better than you do. It was his will that I let go of him. It absolutely was. He would have, if I had let go of him, he would have gladly continued jumping until he fell over and cracked his head. He's a wild little boy. It was absolutely his will. This is just, again, your standard fell apart, and so you retreat to, that's not real capitalism. That's not real socialism.
It's not real socialism. I agree, Liberty, that is an ideal to work towards, which is why it is not why it can't be the bedrock, or not the bedrock, the paramount. It can't be the tip, because we can never get there. And so it may be good to go as close to an ANCAP society as we can. But that entails that we can't get there. We absolutely should all be idealists. We should all have a utopia in mind of what if I was, a galactic president superstar and I could do anything. Then I would want the world to work like this. We should all have that in our heads. But that is a different thing than saying this is how people, not just a person, this is how people in general should act. Those are very, very different things. So I completely agree that the non-aggression principle, anarcho-capitalism is a great ideal to work towards. You need someone working out those ideals and grounding them. This is what Zulu has been doing for years. Dave has given up. Well, maybe. Because it's for a good reason, and he realized that it's just an ideal to work towards and not an eventuality that can ever be real. You just said humans are incentive-driven, terrified of appearing stupid, tribal, overly self-interested. Non-aggression principle is a higher ideal, not compatible with human basic nature. I agree. I'm sorry, I know who you are that has not smash the like button. You have 15 seconds or I am hitting boot. Don't do that. But also, hit the like button.
And so you retreat to, that's not real capitalism. That's not real socialism, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's not really his will. Sorry, that's not good.
Is the claim that your son knew that this would indeed lead to him cracking his head open, and he knew what that implied. He knew everything about this, because I reject that.
Oh, there's a whole different thing between saying that you have a will and saying that you understand all the ramifications of everything that will happen as a result of you following your decisions.
Right. And so again, Liberty, you're talking about, oh, well, when with this hypothetical, we can't understand because there's so many external factors. But then when we actually start talking about real life, then we don't ever have a way that you can understand the standard that Zulu is setting. Well, okay, your child wanted to do the thing, but your child didn't understand that doing the thing could cause harm or be misaligned with what they actually want, i.e., not cracking their head open. But then your standard must be that for anybody to do anything, they must know all of the ramifications of what that choice is. And that's not how life works. That's not how humans work. Sounds good on paper.
Ramifications of everything that will happen as a result of you following your decisions. I'm not sure that any of the three of us understand every ramification that might follow, but what you laid out was their will, and he clearly has one. I don't know.
And I'm saying to properly actually be communicating your will on some subject, you have to actually understand what that decision entails. What does that decision mean? It's not just enough.
By your standards, Zulu, then we can't. That can never happen. You can't understand, but you would have to know how not only your own life is going to play out, but how everyone else who is, within 6 degrees of separation of you, how it will affect them. That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense.
Understand what that decision entails. What does that decision mean? It's not just enough.
But again, this is.
Did you know, Zulu, that taking this debate would play out as it was? So was it not your will to do this debate?
Stupid.
Decision entails. What does that decision mean? It's not just enough.
But again, it's like how you objectivists defend the selfishness. It's like this means nothing if you just change the definition to not. So like I prove an exception to your thing, and then you go, no, that doesn't count because that's not really selfishness. That's not really his will. Okay.
It's the Sam Harris 2.0 argument. It's not exactly saying, well, if things were different, then I would be right. But it kind of is.
Kids have wills. They absolutely have wills. Yeah, they don't have all the same information that. Okay.
Well,
I mean, what do you mean by that? I'm not saying they should have like control. Obviously, I'm arguing that I should be able to hold, but your standard for driving was that they have a will. I don't know. What does that mean? You said a baby doesn't have a will. The reason you can pull
the kid did. Yeah, he said communicate that will. The child said, "Let go of me. I want to continue jumping in the bathtub." What is not communicated about that?
What does that mean? You said a baby doesn't have a will. The reason you can pull but you said the ability to communicate that. Okay, but then I used your standard on my little boy in the bathtub. He had the ability to communicate that. So that standard fails.
He doesn't actually understand what that decision means. It effectively.
So then why say the ability? So don't say the ability to communicate that.
So is the standard?
Because he's not like. So for instance, let's say I got hit in the head really bad, and I just there's these diseases you can get in your brain where you just start saying words. And it's not actually communicating any intention to do anything. So
he knows you guys are being cheap tonight, so he's like, fuck it.
If it just so happened I got hit in the head such a way where it's like, I want to walk off this cliff right now, but you can see my eyes are going all buggy. Like you can see that I just got hit in the head. Like I'm not actually saying those words. I'm effectively just babbling.
But the child was not. Okay, I'm stepping. I did see this part. But guys, we are at 50-50. We are at 50-50 on the poll. Would you grape another child so that your child was not graped? 50-50. Yikes.
Hit in the head. Like, I'm not actually saying those words. I'm effectively just babbling.
Right, but my son was not just babbling. He very specifically wanted to do a thing. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he was going to do that. He wasn't.
So what was ineffectively communicated by "let me go"? When he said effectively communicate their will, he meant by understand what the ramifications are. This is kind of how law works already. But again, then we all have to understand the future. The only way to effectively communicate and understand all of the ramifications is to be a future seer. Did you know what I was going to say when you typed this? So have you effectively communicated your will? What does that mean?
wanted to do a
I
thing.
know what
He
it means,
knew
but-
exactly what he wanted to do, and he was going to do that. He wasn't just hitting the head. Like he's like it's
Sounds pretty effective to me. And again, if we're going to say you need to understand all of the ramifications, that means that you must be able to see the future.
it's just not. It's apples to oranges. But I don't know. We can move on. We don't have to make this whole debate about whether or not I should let, whether or not
Well, no,
whether
I think-
I'm immoral. I should have let my son crack his head and then be tortured to death by Martians.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of curious about.
Exactly. Finally, Dave, you understand. You let your child die and bring on the Martians.
My son crack his head and then be tortured to death by Martians.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of curious about your standard, Zulu, because it seems like your standard implies something to the effect of like they have to understand, like they have to be able to communicate their will and also have an understanding of what the consequences of that action was.
Yeah,
but
like,
then
let's
that seems.
interrogate this. Yeah, okay, sorry. Go ahead, Jacob.
Well, yeah, but that just seems like that would even apply to adults who could just say, well, I didn't know that was going to happen. And then said, who gets to be the judge on what knowledge is reasonable and not reasonable to know ahead of time before you take any particular action?
How is that the case? You don't think we have to know the stand? Can you say more on this? Mr. Ellicott said, again, there are adults that are not very effective in understanding the ramifications of their actions. Yeah. So does that mean that those people cannot be moral or cannot follow the law? Or what is the thing that, okay, you didn't understand all of the ramifications, therefore, and fair enough, maybe I'm stupid not understanding it, but I'm stupid and I'm not understanding it. Adamson, out there's a child starving, so please donate to the channel so they can continue with God's plan for them.
And not reasonable to know ahead of time before you take any particular action. I mean, this sounds, I'm not saying you're saying this, Zulu, but this sounds awfully a lot like the sort of, like in the Me Too movement, when you had all these women basically claiming they got sexually assaulted or raped because like, well, they consented, but they didn't really consent because they didn't know exactly what was going to happen to all. So like, you know, that seems to me.
That's a great analogy. Oh, that's a great analogy. By Zulu standard, you cannot consent to sex because you don't know how that sex is going to go.
Stupid.
That's not how that works. Now, we can talk about what is the term about like consistent consent or something like that, where if you say, yes, I would like to fuck you, and then in the middle of fucking you're like, actually I don't want to do this anymore, then you've withdrawn your consent. Fair enough. But the next day, you're like, I didn't know the ramifications of how that was going to work out. So you raped me. Like, that's the standard. That's the standard that we want. Mr. Ellicott said, this is my biggest critique about this debate, is the mod gets too involved and biased. As somebody who tried to moderate the other day, it is way, way harder to moderate than it is to, well, I don't know if it's harder to moderate than it is to debate, but it is difficult. So it's tough, but I agree. All right, diving back in. But to be fair, actually, in this moment, I do think he is moderating in the sense that they're kind of going around in circles. And so at that point, we want a moderator to be like, okay, well, let's move it this direction so that the conversation can move forward. So in general, I agree with you. But in this moment, I think he's doing what he's supposed to be doing.
They didn't know exactly what was going to happen to all. So like, you know, that seems to me, unless you have a better way of defining it, like a really slippery slope to like, we're suddenly opening kind of Pandora's box to kind of be like the standard is, you know, like there needs to be a clear sort of like, if it's based upon your ability to know the risks of something.
I mean, it's not like it's Andrew Wilson. If Zulu's talking, then Dave will stop. But he's not talking. What do you talk then?
Then like, you know, who's deciding what that knowledge level is?
So again, this is what the field of psychology is for, right? And child development. You have to have the capacity to actually understand what a decision means in order to communicate your will to do that decision. If you don't know what that decision means, you just can't communicate that you want to make that decision, right? So for like a case of an adult, if they're just being epistemic negligent, well, then they are capable of understanding what this decision means, so they are able to communicate their will on the subject. But I don't think that for a child, and by the way, the way I define child is in the legal sense, it's someone who's not able to communicate their will. So this would also apply to, you know, biological adults. who, like, you know, you see this all the time where it's someone who's like so mentally whacked out of their mind that they just go around and they're just like a beast. And it's like, yeah, indeed, we just got to like control this person and remove them from the situation.
Yeah, but again, like, I think, see, the thing about this is, right, and I feel like this is the case. It's like all you guys.
See, I mean, no interruptions. Like Dave is, Dave can go there, but if Zulu's talking, then he'll shut up. You can't be. It's not the debate opponent's fault for not letting you talk. Like, talk then.
Again, like, I think, see, the thing about this is, right, and I feel like this is the case. It's like all you guys in your camp, it's like you dogpile on me about where I'm not perfectly consistent in my theory, and like even
just like, well, yeah, I mean, you said Discount Bosch is not a commie, so that is good news. Yes, we do not like the commies, and we can have disagreements without going to the level of commie. And Dave did say that he was worse than a commie, but fuck, what was I just gonna say?
About where I'm not perfectly consistent.
Oh yeah. The relevance to the Jim Bob debate, trying to pin down. Oh, because I don't have the standard, or because Jim Bob's saying you don't have the standard, therefore I'm right. That's not what that means. Shout out to Ted Ferguson. Welcome. Shout out to your little the little Sanus, Lou. Welcome to the party.
You dogpile on me about where I'm not perfectly consistent in my theory, and like even just before, it's like, well, what's my limiting principle on when it's okay to violate the non-aggression principle or of that. But then when we get into this, like, okay, so you're the theory guy here, and your theory is coming down to when they communicate their will. Okay, well, it's not when they communicate their will; it's when they communicate their will, and they know all of the ramifications. But then, of course, no one really knows. Right, but no one really knows all of the ramifications. And so obviously this whole thing, right, it's a spectrum. And to just say this is what the field of psychology is for is like, that's a cop-out. You don't have anything then. Like
as somebody who has a degree in psychology, 99.9% of psychology is bullshit. There's some good shit in there, but most of it is bullshit.
The thing is that you're going to have to cut it off somewhere, right? And on a certain end, there are going to be some people who are like, I don't know, not super aware of everything, but kind of aware of some things. And you know what I'm saying? Like, there's obviously going to be an area where you're going to have to make a judgment call. So essentially what I'm saying is you're really, when you boil this thing down, right back to where I am on theory. At some point, even a psychologist, by the way, is making a judgment call. It's not objective to say like exactly whether somebody understands all the ramifications of their actions or not.
Shout out to Hector. Welcome to the party. Very good to see ya. BS. I agree. A lot of leftist-esque in the way that a leftist would be overly intellectualizing something that is rather simple. Mr. Alicat said the Jim Bob debate was easier than that. He is trying to claim only theists are rational because they are righteous, which is not what rational means.
Bingo.
Yup. Liberty said if you are capable of knowing the ramifications is what he should have said. I don't know why he just lets Dave talk and talk. Dave hypnotized him. Yep. The DSM has gone left. It's been left. Yep.
Whether somebody understands all the ramifications of their actions or not. Does any 17-year-old understand the ramifications of all their actions?
The judge,
and again, does any 40-year-old know all the ramifications of their actions? No. That's what life is. Making decisions and seeing how that shit works out. Yeah, obviously you can speculate on what's going to happen, but unless you got a crystal ball, what are we talking about? In order to live in Zulu's world, you must know the future. Just like all the Christians who say that Christianity is the best that humanity can ever do. I agree. Christianity is the best moral structure that exists for humans today. But how do you know what's going to happen tomorrow? Maybe Jesus comes back and is like, oh, you guys are still going by that Bible shit? Oh, man, I thought you'd figure out some other shit by now. Nah, here, let me tell you the new rules. You know, like he did the first time.
He understands all the ramifications of their actions or not. Does any 17-year-old understand the ramifications of all their actions?
The judgment call here isn't whether or not we want to apply the N.A.P in this situation. That is that is inviolable. Okay, the judgment call is you have to actually scientifically investigate whether this person is indeed capable of communicating their will on this thing. That's where the scientific investigation comes in. That's where we leave the realm that I deal with, which is law. That law has already answered the question. Is already given the objective standard.
So was I. I was like, I mean, I know Deathpo was just like kind of out there sometimes, just saying shit. But I was like, what happened?
That I deal with, which is law. That law has already answered the question. Is already given the objective standard. Now it's up to scientists to try and apply that standard to some particular case in front of them. I can't answer.
But you didn't. What your objective standard was just. Okay.
Ooh, we got a swing in the poll. We are now 70% out of 10 votes saying that no, you would not grape another child so that your child was not graped. Interesting.
I can't answer.
But you didn't. What your objective standard was just. Okay, but I don't think you've given an objective standard there at all. But okay,
so just stopped.
Well, let's move on from that. I did want to go back to something that a couple things that came up earlier.
Hey, shout out to Thumping Weeble. Welcome to the party. So we're talking with Dave Smith and Liquid Zulu, two libertarians, and they're talking about the non-aggression principle. And so, you know, we were talking about the hypothetical of if you could say if the world was about to end, or different one, same principle, the person you loved most was going to be tortured to death. And in either situation, you could stop that from happening by stealing a nickel. 5 cents. Would you do it? And Zulu here with the terrible camera is saying, no, you should let the person you love most be tortured to death because theft is wrong. So then, I think it was DJ? I apologize. I forget who brought this up. But a similar type of thing where there's harm and different levels of harm and your own family versus other people. Would you grape another child so that your child wasn't graped? So you're in a situation where somebody is going to grape your child. And the only way to stop it is to do that to another child. Would you do it? Me neither. Welcome to the party. Actually, I mean, I wouldn't say I don't like him. I just don't agree with him.
On from that,
but again,
I did want to go back.
But again, he didn't say like that. The grape thing was from the chat, just to be clear.
But okay.
Well, let's move on from that. I did want to go back to something that a couple things that came up earlier. So I'll ask this one first. You know, Zulu, in your opening remark, you talked about, you said that basically Dave is strawmanning your and the other people's position who are saying that there should be zero restrictions on public property, because the way you're defining that means that would include schools and the state or whoever's controlling the schools aren't for that includes not forcing kids on it. But every time Dave brought this up, it was in the context of not this like abstract, what you're advocating for is, I mean, essentially what you're just defining privatization at that point. You're just saying, we just don't think they should do anything with the property and stop owning it. But Dave's question was always, what
again, they're talking about the existence of public property.
What do we do right now? Because
public property already
and obviously this relates to the immigration thing, but before we even get to that, if we have time, that's not really the focus of this debate, but it's part of the resolution. I don't think we've talked about it too much here. Is this sort of like, yeah, I think Dave and me and you all agree that ANCAP position is, you know.
So wait. You're going outside. So if you are swinging, then that means that your child is getting raped. The only way to stop it, you have two options. In this hypothetical situation, we're not in the real world. So there's no such thing as, well, I'll just beat him up. That does not exist. He's in a different state, and you're watching it on Zoom. And the only way, he's saying, all right, go find a kid and grape the kid. Otherwise, your kid is taking up the pooper. What do you do? What do you do? Shout out to Bish. Welcome to the party. And fun fact, you can judge a man's character by the children he has raised. Trump kids versus Biden kids. Fuck Joe Biden. Dilly to that. So glad we are out of that world. We also got Dane. Welcome, Dane. Very good to see you. No, we're not talking race again. Not talking race again. Any child can be raped. Ugh, I don't like that joke. Anyway, so do I. If you would like a wrench, act like Adam does. Yeah, an angry saying the poll, people answering the poll with no must not be parents. If you do anything to protect your child, it's your duty. I don't know, man. It's tough. It is tough. Yeah, right? That's worse.
I think Dave and me and you all agree that ANCAP position is, what should the state do with public property? It should have never created public property in the first place. And now that it has, it should, cease to exist, and it should become, first come, first serve, or sold, and, maybe money repaid to the taxpayers, like Al Kanwasta said. But until we get that, Dave is saying, well, isn't it reasonable? Are you going to go to parents and say, sorry, my theory says that the school gets to force your children to be there, but while it's doing that, you don't get to. Okay, well,
my theory doesn't say that it's fine for the state to force your children to go there. That's precisely why I accepted this resolution, which is support zero restrictions on public property, because I don't hold that I have to accept that there should be some restrictions, namely forcing people to stay there, and then remove other. I don't have any dog in that fight. All right, my claim is there should be zero restrictions, and that's what the resolution says. I indeed bite the bullet that there should be zero restrictions on public property. So I'm confused.
Okay, but obviously that obviously is a cop out of the larger conversation. But okay, fine. I mean, look, the whole point.
That's your resolution.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, it's obvious, just avoiding the issue there. But yes, the whole context of this conversation, as everybody involved knows, is that we're not talking about a situation where we are abolishing all public property and privatizing the United States of America. None of us have a debate about that. The point is that there are a lot of libertarians who are saying all things being given, open borders would be better. And I'm just saying,
that's bad.
Even if you're going to say all restrictions include the courthouses and all of that, but are you actually going to say that I don't know, people should be allowed to sleep on the highways, people should be allowed to shoot heroin outside of schools or whatever? I mean, there's obvious implications that are problems even with yours. But the idea is that if you're saying open borders are okay, but government still controls the land, then obviously in the scenario I was talking about was being oh, well, okay, we have a public school that is functioning as a government school. Would it be better if there were zero restrictions on who was allowed in? So if you're going to bite the bullet, bite the bullet. If you're not going to bite the bullet and say, oh, no, I'm only saying that because the state capitol will be toppled or something like that, that therefore it'll make up for that. But that was the topic of debate that you did a video on that I don't know, obviously.
It's not even that I'll make up for it. And again, back in that original video, the moral case for open borders, what I describe in that video is the homeless person is in fact homesteading the park. I think that they own that park.
Bish said, what part of legal and illegal immigration confuses Democrats? Skin color. I'm not kidding. It's skin color.
The homeless person is in fact homesteading the park. I think that they own that park at that point, or at least some section of the park, and then it's subject to free market. Right, that was.
I mean, it depends on the city, but yep, anywhere you like, and all the libs oh my god, this what do they call it? This hostile architecture. Get a job. Get a job.
And then it's subject to free market. Right, that was always my point throughout this entire thing. I don't care what anybody else said on it, where they wanted to keep some restrictions but peel off others. That has never been my point.
So the homeless man who just walks into a park that an entire community of people have been forced to pay for, and he just sits down there and takes a shit on the swings and shoots up next to them. It's his. That was him mixing his labor with the land, not the people who have been systematically robbed by the government. Not the
Yeah. How do we determine labor then?
mixing his labor with the land, not the people who have been systematically robbed by the government. Not
Guys, again, really quick, we are so close to 5K subscribers. If I could wake up Christmas morning and see that 5K, oh my goodness, it would warm my heart. If you are new, please do hit that subscribe. I am live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it, and it is a good time. So don't even just subscribe. You know YouTube sucks with those notifications. Hit that bell and never miss a party ever. Again.
His labor with the land, not the people who have been systematically robbed by the government, not the normal families who are just sitting there trying to use it for at least what its purpose was, not the taxpayer. That's who the libertarians have to stick up for. The homeless junkie.
So it depends. Again, this is where we have to come up with an N.A.P. compliant solution here. Right? We can't just throw our arms up and go, well, I guess the N.A.P. doesn't work anymore. So what would be an
no one's doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody is saying it doesn't work. We're just saying your rigidity, your rigid adherence is not practical.
Doing that.
Hold on. So what would be the actual N.A.P. compliant solution here? Well, somebody can come along whilst the state's still there and declare guardianship. They can publicly say, hey, I'm declaring guardianship over this given public possession, and I'm going to try and maintain it. And when the state goes away, I'm gonna step in and I'm gonna homestead it, and I'm gonna make sure that it's gonna be used for restitution or whatever. That would be a
good way to be unalive.
So that is one possibility, dude.
Shout out to Mike. Welcome with a brilliant quote from our former president. Oh man, I said it before, but I'll say it again. How glad are we that we don't live in that country anymore? The Biden's America. Yuck. Or, as Box would say, icky. Welcome to the party.
To be unalive.
That is one possibility, dude. That is one possibility. The other is like a cop could go beat it. Right. Get out of here.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like a good way to get unalive.
Mine seems slightly more realistic and slightly more like within the realm of what could actually happen maybe tomorrow, and not just like a multi-general, like effort that we believe is theoretically sound in our heads. Like I just, I don't know. This stuff just gets into goofy territory, man. And like there just is. This really is where there's just a difference between living in theory in your head and living in reality. And
like all the wokies do.
Going like, we could, yes, but there's another solution that has this one added benefit of might actually fucking possibly happen. That could happen right now under the current paradigm.
Fix or it didn't happen.
And if you want to say, well, hey, you're not being pure to your principle in 100% of situations, no matter how ridiculous it is. I mean, honestly, dude, it's just like, yeah, but you'd let your mom get tortured in front of you. So like, yes.
So what is, yeah, exactly. What is the argument that you're trying to morally grandstand as you would let your mother die
so that you could be the most libertarian that ever libertarian?
Like, what is this? This is such a childish interpretation of life in general.
I mean, honestly, dude, it's just like, yeah, but you'd let your mom get tortured in front of you. So like, yes, that's true. In that situation, I'm fine with the cop telling the guy to leave. Don't let old men into public schools. That's actually the correct answer.
So the fix or it didn't happen.
As of right now.
Again, so the cop telling the guy to leave and not, homestead this property, not get in there. Well, that's equivalent to someone, a border agent sitting on the border and saying, no, you're not allowed in here, right? But if you're going to take the reduction against me, it would include that the cop shouldn't tell the guy to go away. The cop shouldn't do that. It should be. Again, that's what I've always.
I'm sorry. Can you just restate that? I don't think I followed you on that.
So you're saying the more likely scenario, in a situation where someone's a guardian, they're trying to declare themselves as the guardian of this public park or whatever, and they're saying, hey, I'm going to try and homestead this thing when I'm able to. Okay, but then you're saying, well, the more likely thing there is the cop just tells this guy to piss off. Okay, well, that's actually equivalent to someone sitting on the border and saying, no, you're not allowed in here, Jose, or whatever. Okay, but then if you're taking the reduction against me, which is the open border stance, I'm also claiming that the cop shouldn't tell this guy to go away. He should allow this guardian to come in and homestead this park and, sell it off to somebody else and try and, get this back into the market here. That's what I'm claiming, and that's what I've always claimed.
Well, Zulu, but you do realize that there's kind of a barrier. Like, yeah, I think we're all open to like, what can we do either now or in the future to start privatizing public property? But I think
so they can see into the future. All right. Well, I apologize to Zulu. I mean, if you've seen the future, then goddamn.
Dave's point is always like
the difference is just that we're living in real life, not in theory. I mean,
well,
that's
so
the difference. Is that you're coming up with a solution that is completely far-fetched and unrealistic, cannot possibly happen in real life because you want it to be consistent with your theory. I understand that that's what drives you to the point that you will take the most.
What about that Guardian doing? What about the Guardian doing that? Is impossible.
Because obviously we live in anarcho-tyranny, and the police force would not look. The reality of the situation we live in, whether libertarians like it or not, okay, is that the state can crush any of us. All of us only have anything because the state allows us to have it. Like they could.
Sadly true. Guys, we are coming up on that 2.5 hour mark. There is we are about halfway through. We are almost through the actual debate, but the Q&A is still coming up. If you would like to keep the party raging, guys, you know how to do it.
Come with overwhelming force and destroy any of us if they wanted to. That actually is objectivism, if you want to really know what's objective. What is objective is that there's men with guns who rule over us and they make the decisions. There's no, in a scenario in a modern city today, nobody is coming and claiming ownership over some private park, some public park. The cops would shut that down in a second. The point is that the government's put us in a position, like the same thing with the border, where they control the thing and then decide when to enforce the rules and when not to, and not in a coherent or sane manner. And so
shout out to World War Debate. Welcome to the party. Thank you so very, very much. Unfortunately, we only got a few minutes left, but 99 cents will keep the party raging, guys. Welcome.
And when not to, and not in a coherent or sane manner. And so that would never happen. The cops would shut you down immediately. But here in real life, all over major cities throughout the United States of America, those same cops that would not let you do that are also allowing homeless junkies to lay down under a slide. And it's a real problem. And so forgive me if I'm more concerned with solving real problems in the real world than making sure that you don't ever feel like you contradict yourself.
Well, again, contradictions are false. And by the way, this thing of
what? Holy shit! Dave is just saying, like, bro, okay, maybe you're super, super consistent, but the you being consistent does not help the situation that we're in. It was like, yeah, but my theory is correct. Okay, bro. All right, dude.
Okay, again, contradictions are false. And by the way, this thing of we live in a narco-tyranny, so we're not going to privatize it. It's like, okay, great, yeah, I know, right? And that's why I'm advocating that we be able to privatize these things. And if I don't advocate that, well, then we're never going to get there, right? It's just never going to happen unless somebody's out here advocating that these things should be privatized.
Yeah, see, I think this
apply, by the way, to also the Hoppian solution, like the syndicalist approach of how you privatize public property, right? That we don't live under the world. We're able to do that. It's like, okay, well, yeah, great, duh.
Right. Okay. But so then what it really comes down to is that you're saying, well, all we got to do between now and then is say, privatize it. I just don't think that's right. I think that. Right. Okay, fine. But like, look, man, I'll just say, and dude, honestly, man, I wish you all the best in your career. And I hope you reach, millions and millions of people with, the great stuff that I think you have to say about economics and even a lot of the philosophical stuff. I've watched over the years, like, I've been a libertarian for 20 years or so, a little less than that now. And I remember, like, before I was even like on the scene, before I was even podcasting, there were these guys who were kind of like big, what you might call celebritarians or whatever. And they were, like Adam Kokesh had a show on RT. Larkin Rose had made a bunch of like YouTube videos that had like blown up at the time. Even when I started podcasting, I mean, those guys were way ahead of me. They had started before and had big audiences way before I had an audience. And I watched those guys just I'm not saying this to like take a shot at either of them. I got nothing against either of them, but like I just watched them like fade into irrelevance, like just not move the needle at all. Like just, you know, it's like that, and then go and just like lose debates really badly. And because they were taking, you know, just crazy positions that are just totally untenable, that are going to get everyone to go, this is just absurd.
Yeah, but they're philosophically consistent.
And, you know, I don't think that that's the correct method. I do think that like there's a balance. And I think that like, if there was anything, like if I'm trying to be as charitable as possible, like I thought.
You really don't want to see the end of this?
Listen, I thought you got a lot of shit wrong in the video that you made about me. I mean, like almost everything that I saw, I thought you got wrong. But like there was one point I saw where you were talking about how like, look, like when Ron Paul, you know, is asked about immigration, he at least like pivots back to this vision of a free society, and where Dave is like always just trying to prove that he's not a goofy open border libertarian on this issue. I'm like, I think there's a reasonable criticism of me in that, you know, like I don't like, you know, it is possible that like there's a balance, and maybe I haven't struck the balance perfectly. I've been very open talking about how I don't think I've talked about economics enough on the big shows I've been on. But like, there's a balance. Yeah, you want to talk about like the vision for a free society. You want to talk about the fact that we want to move in that direction. You want to get as many people reading Ron Paul and Murray Rothbard and Ludwig von Mises as possible.
What gets us closer to a libertarian society? A content creator generally espousing libertarian ideas, or a libertarian who is willing to kill his mother to make sure that he's a libertarian?
Say I've been doing pretty good in that department as far as people in our society go. But I also think that you're just going to be much more relevant, taken much more seriously, and move the needle much more in our actual huge opportunity that we have in the culture right now. If your immediate solution for things isn't like, you know, yeah, we just have to have no government restrictions on anything. And even though we all know on some level this would lead to like an unmitigated disaster tomorrow, we have to support that anyway because privatize it. I just disagree with
it's not because privatize it. Like, yes, but no, we believe in it despite that, because I'm more consistent than you are. I'm more consistent than you are. Look how fucking cute he is. Really? Look at that butthole. You're not gonna. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing?
To support that anyway because privatize it. I just disagree with your subjective strategy on that.
Again, what it means to have no government restrictions on things is, yeah, indeed, that would be. This is like the point with the Austrian business cycle theory. That if there's been all this malinvestment, we're in like this big boom period, right? When that gets cut off, we enter a bust, and it is, you know, it's bad. But you got to go through that bust. The bust is the good part, right? So yeah, if the government tomorrow, Trump calls me up and is like, hello, Liquid Zulu, I've been loving the content, you know, and he's like, hey, tell me all the policies you want me to implement right now. And, you know, I managed to achieve N.A.P. stand. Every state in the entire world immediately collapsed. Yeah, there'd be a lot of bad things which would happen. But that's the bust.
Well, we should definitely do that.
Period. We've been in this infini boom for the past like several millennia now. So yeah, there's going to be a hell of a bust which comes up. But we got to go through.
Hey, a shout out to Jennifer, aka Arrow. Morty Mort. Come here. Yeah, there we go. Another treat for the Overlord, and the party rages on. And of course, you know what that means, guys. We've got our new sponsor of the stream. Thank you so very, very much. Let's party on.
Past like several millennia now. So yeah, there's going to be a hell of a bust which comes up. But we got to go through that bust. You got to have the bust in order to actually get back to rational allocation.
Again, it's stated as if it's an objective claim, but no, a business cycle and an entire society are different things. And allowing homeless junkies into elementary school is not cleansing malinvestment from an economy. Those are just very different things. And in fact,
what is the
allowing a homeless junkie into a girl's bathroom is actually just completely an unnecessary step in a transition from here to Ancapistan. It's not the necessary correction after a bunch of malinvestment. In fact, you could just have an orderly solution. Like, I mean, I don't know. There's a million different scenarios, and we're not going to Ancapistan tomorrow. And like, frankly, these debates just like really are not the thing that interests me. But I don't know. There's just never been a serious, reasonable libertarian who ever had that proposal as how we unwind the state. You private
and exactly. So when you when you guys are saying, well, he's not a true libertarian, like, good. True libertarians are not moving the needle. Maybe in 20, 50, 100 years, we'll look back and say, wow, Zulu was just ahead of his time. Okay. I'm willing to bite that bullet. In 20 years, if Zulu becomes the number one voice on how we can, what I was going to say, what's the verb of liberate? There we go. We can liberate Americans in our politics. I'm happy to say that I was wrong. But as of today, I don't think that what he is saying has any real value except to prove that he is the best libertarian there is.
It. Maybe there's an auction. Maybe there's some type of like shares given out to the community. Maybe you hand it over to a board of the parents. But in the meantime, you don't let homeless junkies in, man. I mean, like, it's just, this is not, I don't know. This is just too goofy, man. I swear to God, I thought I was being trolled by your whole inquiry here, that you're going to bite the bullets and that this is going to like destroy me in a debate or something, man. But like, it just doesn't logically follow that you need that step at all. And like, look, dude, there are, again, like I said before, there are complicated factors going on here. Like, it just got alleged by Stephen Miller. Now, I don't know exactly if this is true, but he may not be making this up. But he said that they've found like all the documents and that the Biden administration specifically requested for millions of migrants to be brought in to the country, which again, like, really doesn't seem that far-fetched. We already know there's a lot of UN money, a lot of NGO money was going into that shit. So like, okay, yeah, in perfect libertarian theory, like, the government's not supposed to do nothing to no one and we're supposed to have private property, but we don't.
This is the other thing. Like, when we, he brought up the notion of, well, socialism sounds good on paper, but we all agree with that. So why is it so out of pocket to think that there are other ideologies that maybe we agree with a little bit more that still fall to that? I don't get it.
Have any of that. We have this situation right now. Is it so obvious to a libertarian that like it's once that happens, right? Let's just say that story's true. Either way, the story's basically true. A government intentionally brings millions of people into a country. They pay for it with the money they stole from the domestic population or destroying their currency or whatever. They bring in a foreign population that would not have otherwise been here. Nope. Okay? Now they are in because of state action. Is it such an obvious conclusion that from the libertarian perspective, it's better off to leave them here than remove them back to where they were? I actually think this falls into the range of like, life's more complicated than that. And actually, like, there are these conflicting times where like one act, nothing else following after that, does more of a thing than one act and then an act that undid that last thing. And so in the same sense, the government owning a public street and deciding that homeless junkies are allowed to shoot up on the street is like a different thing. Like, then there's just as reasonable a case that we know they wouldn't do this privately. We should support this not being the status quo.
Yeah, but
so he did say a few things there. I just want to quickly say what I would say.
I was going to say, all right, Jacob, like, Dave just went on a roll. You can't be talking right now. I'll give it back to Zulu.
Those things. So as far as like, a homeless junkie who's like erratic, and this guy's like a crazy person or whatever, having him around children is absolutely proper. To grab this guy and throw him out of society, that's fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. And as for
but isn't that a violation of the non-aggression principle?
No, I don't think it is, because I think if you've got this like person throwing their machete around, running at children.
No. Throwing a machete.
Why do you always have to change the hypothetical? Just deal with the words that are said to you. You're changing the situation to make yourself be right because you don't want to answer the hypothetical that was presented to you. I wonder why. And see, this is a little bit more shady than someone being like, All right. I mean, in that example, it does really seem like your side is better, but it's not because of X, Y, Z. Or, fuck, you got me, I'm wrong. But he's not doing that. All throughout this debate, he's been sidestepping, dancing around.
Throwing their machete around and they're running at children.
No. We're not throwing a machete around. Just make it a homeless junkie who's got feces all over him and is like clearly on drugs and just a clearly.
Yeah, he's Indian. Ha 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 ha.
Junkie who's got feces all over him and is like clearly on drugs and just a clearly unstable looking person. Is it okay to grab him and throw him out?
Yeah, what it means to say this person is unstable is that he is a risk to my children. He is threatening my children. So
no. Hold on. Well, no. Because let's be real precise here with this. I'm sorry. I'm just going to push you on this now. So no, a risk and threatening are not the same thing.
Yep.
Like a threat is something like I'm going to hurt your child.
Yeah, a threat is active. And I'm glad we're all on the same page that open borders is not a libertarian solution. But the what did you just say? Fuck, I forget it.
Like threat.
Oh yeah. Threats. A threat versus a risk. A threat is more the way that I would use the word is a much more active thing. Somebody is threatening me or the existence of a more attractive person calling themselves the Indian Jesus doing political commentary. That's a threat to my to my brand. But a risk is not necessarily something that will happen. Hence, it being a risk and not an inevitability. If you go skydiving, it is a risk that your parachute won't open and you die. But there's no threat in that situation. Fuck you!
Now, so no, a risk and threatening are not the same thing. Like a threat is something like I'm gonna hurt your child. A risk is like I just looked at this guy, eyed him up. I'm working on probability now. He might not do anything. He hasn't threatened anybody, but so how is it not an act of aggression to grab that guy and throw him out just because I thought it was likely going to lead to aggression?
Yeah. So the way I'm envisioning this scenario is that you've got this sort of maniac of a person. Right, we've all seen the videos of like these people on like public transport or whatever, and then suddenly they just start stabbing someone. Right, that's why we don't want them around children. Is because we think they're a threat. Right, that's
right. But you're the one saying that we shouldn't do anything about the public property that already exists where that is happening. So what's the argument?
That's the reason why you don't want them there. So as far as the business cycle point.
Yeah. No, wait. Hold on. That's not an answer to my question, man. So that you think they're a threat? I mean, like,
not just
what are you basing this on? I mean, like black people disproportionately.
I'm just letting you guys know. My dinner tonight will be 2 slices of pizza that I ordered 3 days ago. Sonic sounds good. Someone hit me up for a DoorDash. I just want, either another pizza or just like some what do they call them? The chicken crisps from Chili's or Applebee's, either one. I don't know.
So just
what are you basing this on? I mean, like black people disproportionately commit a lot of crime. Can we just go based off they're black, so now I can initiate violence against them? How is this not a violation of the non-aggression principle that you're supporting right now?
So no, I'm not saying remove any black person from school. Again, what I'm saying is,
but what's your criteria? They look
exactly.
Like
Nobody said that you said that. He's bringing that up because it is challenging the logic that you are using. Dummy Weevil said, Jack in the Box sounds good. Yeah, we don't have that around here either. We do got White Castle. We got White Castle. We got Wawa has a pizza now. We got some good shit around here, and I could survive on Wendy's chili for months at a time, probably. Anytime I pass a Chili's, or if I'm ordering something and Chili's is within the radius of double dashing, I always get a bunch of Chili's. Tacos are good, but tacos are not good for delivery. You gotta get them fresh.
From school again.
Soggy ass.
What I'm saying is,
But what's
the way
your
I'm
criteria? They look like a
Hold
threat.
on.
You perceive them as a threat.
It's not just that they look like a threat.
All food has become expensive and gross.
Is that the objectively are a threat? That's what I was assuming the scenario was. Are you saying that this person is no threat to children? You 100% know he's just
No. I'm not claiming.
We don't know if he's a threat to children. He's a risk to children, but we don't know if he's a threat. He's just a guy. I mean, he's not just a guy. He's a homeless guy shooting up and covered in feces. But we don't know that guy is going to hurt anybody. It is a risk that he might, but he has not posed a threat. Where did I leave off? Liberty said, if someone is putting you at risk, it's threatening. It isn't equivocating different uses of the word, a direct threat or communicate threat versus a threat to you. I have no idea what that says. If someone is putting you at risk, it's threatening. Right, so all threats are a risk, but not all risks are threats. All toads are frogs, but not all frogs are toads. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I love it. Like, the burgers are great, but, they don't last as long. So what I do is I get my my chili. We got now they have the little sour cream packets. Oh, chef's kiss. Add a little bit of garlic salt. A little bit of Taco Bell sauce, the mild sauce, not because I'm a little bitch, but because it tastes better. Then I have the Dustin Poirier hot sauce, which is hot as fuck. A little drop in there, a little freshly ground black pepper, and it is good. Oh, and of course, I'll cook up some pasta, throw it in there. It's a good time. It is a good time. So I don't need fast food, but I only crave what we don't have here. Well, I mean, blessing in disguise, maybe?
No threat to children. You 100% know he's just
No.
No.
I'm not claiming. No. I'm not claiming you 100%. No, I'm talking about just a guy who's a homeless junkie who wants to go into the elementary school and sit in the girls' changing room. Yes, I mean, so in my scenario, we don't know. Obviously, there's a very high probability, and obviously, if done in large enough numbers, real children are going to be injured. They are going to be brutalized as a result of.
But that one person, we don't know if they are a threat, even though we can assess that they are a risk.
We know that in large numbers. We don't know in the individual case. This isn't a standard for saying you can initiate force. From libertarian.
Yeah, I feel like that guy might be threatening, so arrest him. What? Very libertarian of you.
Theory.
So again, the way we look at these scenarios, right? What do you think of when you think homeless junkie entering a girl's restroom? Well, you're thinking that
you're not American. I'm going to read this differently if you're American versus if you're not.
Of when you think homeless junkie entering a girl's restroom, well, you're thinking that guy's trying to hurt children. That's at least
but you're thinking that isn't. But you're thinking that isn't the libertarian standard. I could be thinking you're a threat to me right now. What type of objective standard?
What objectively is the case when someone is breaking into?
Yeah, but you don't know. No, you don't know if it's objectively the case. You guys.
That's the difference between the risk and the threat. The risk means the threat may be possible. The threat is a risk to you. But just because there's risk doesn't mean there's a threat. And especially if we're talking about some type of authority, whether it's a private guardian or the state, physically manhandling someone based on you look risky. Sounds kind of authoritarian and very statist to me.
Yeah, but you don't know. No, you don't know if it's objectively the case. You guys, you can't just pretend everything's objective. I described the scenario very clearly. It's a homeless.
I mean, tell that to the Crucible.
You can't just pretend everything's objective. I described the scenario very clearly. It's a homeless guy, looks erratic, clearly doesn't belong in a bathroom with children, but you don't objectively know that he's a threat. He might not be. There sure seems to be a high probability that he is, though.
That's what it means for someone to be erratic, right? That's what erratic means.
Sure. Yes. The risk is that this person may potentially be erratic. How does that change the threat versus risk level. Angry said every time you drive a car, there's a risk, but no threat. Or maybe there is. Every time you drive, there's a risk, but only when someone is tailgating you or yelling at you, and then there's a threat. But the risk is that you can get in an accident. Risk, but not necessarily a threat. And there could be a threat that is very risky. If somebody jumps out of their car and starts yelling at you, they are both a risk and a threat. But the fact that you may get in an accident is not a threat. It is merely a risk. Big risk, but not a threat.
For someone to be erratic, right? That's what erratic means.
Okay. Again, I described it very clearly. So I don't understand how you're not abandoning the non-aggression principle here. You can just decide that he's a threat and then remove him. I don't know, dude. Like, where do we start? You're willing to bite the bullet to let your own mom get tortured to death, dude. Just let the homeless guy into the kid's bathroom. I mean, what's worse than that?
Out to Hank. Hey, welcome to the party. Have there been new episodes? I don't remember if I'm caught up on the new season. But welcome. Instead of John Wick owned a 7-Eleven. There you go. Thank you. Come again. Please subscribe. Let me get to 5K before Christmas, please. Thank you.
Tortured to death, dude. Just let the homeless guy into the kid's bathroom.
Yeah, right.
What's worse than that?
Mom, you gotta die. You gotta die, Mom. But the homeless junkie can do whatever he wants. That sounds like a bad mentality. What do I know? But that seems like conflicting, no?
Then remove him. I don't know, dude. Like, where do we start? You're willing to bite the bullet to let your own mom get tortured to death, dude. Just let the homeless guy into the kid's bathroom. I mean, what's worse than that bullet, man? Just bite this one. And then, like, okay, we can stand on that. You're the perfect guy who's worked out all of the theory. And I'm just a guy who has, like, some libertarian tendencies, but isn't a real libertarian according to you. But your perfect theory is I have to allow my kids to get tortured to death before I steal a penny. Like,
God damn. God damn. Dave Smith. Undefeated.
Okay. I'm fine with not being in whatever your, definition group is. But like, again, like, to sit here and say, you're sitting here and saying that like I straw man your guys' position. I mean, dude, like, You edited up videos of me to make it look like I was saying the exact opposite thing of what I was saying. You played a clip. You edited up a video to make it look like I was threatening some woman or I was inciting violence against her. I mean, I don't think I'm straw manning here. I think you challenged me to this bite the bullet debate. I'm sitting here asking you to bite the bullet and you're avoiding it.
So again, I'm perfectly fine biting the bullet that you shouldn't ever commit aggression.
And do
I
it.
just want to say, like, I have gone over the deceptive editing claims. I went over that in my response to your guys' response. So it's not necessarily good to rehash that here. Obviously, we're limited.
Well, I mean, yeah, you took the part out where I was making it a hypothetical and sure made it sound like I was talking about the people who I was just talking about. If you listen to the full version, nobody comes away, including those two, who I guarantee watched it. Nobody comes away with the impression that I was calling for violence against anyone. But when you watch your edited video, it kind of does sound like I am. Like, come on, dude.
Again, I never made it.
Good faith and such. Good faith to other libertarians and such.
I never made any claims of that sort. I was using that.
I know.
Come
I was
on.
using that as evidence for my claim that this is like kind of your inflammatory rhetoric around the board.
Beta.
How long was the video? He made a 3-hour video about it. I didn't make any claims. I just showed everybody that clip mine shit, cherry picked clips of you saying things that you didn't actually mean because of the way I clipped it. But I didn't say anything.
Come on, man.
Respect lost.
Evidence for my claim that this is like kind of your inflammatory rhetoric around the border. That was what I said in the video, right? I said that,
and then you
video.
just sat there. Right. Yeah, I understand. You didn't directly say it. You just let everybody else say it, and then went, "I didn't edit the video. I don't know what you're talking about." Yeah. Okay.
So like,
no
in
response.
what way was I doing that?
So wait, what? So
So, like, in what way wasn't they doing that?
In the way where you took out the part where it made it clearly a hypothetical, where I'm just talking about, I mean, look, for anybody who doesn't know, essentially what I said was, oh, I call these guys as bad as a commie or a Nazi. And like, yeah, I mean that. They are as bad as a commie or a Nazi.
I've been telling to hit you. Hit me up. I don't know what you're waiting for.
And when you're advocating that homeless people be allowed around, like your children, like, my God, I'm not in a situation like that. But like, imagine I was a guy making 20 grand a year, and imagine my wife had to work and I couldn't afford for her to stay home. And imagine I had to send my kids to public school because there's truancy laws. And then you were like somebody who's advocating and putting my kids in harm's danger. Like, I was like, man, I would murder over. It's me. I have the anti-theory of you. I would murder to protect my kids. I would die to protect my kids. But when you cut out the part where it goes, oh, if I was in this scenario where I make $30,000 a year, and if I was in this, and if I was in a completely different hypothetical situation, and a different hypothetical person was saying this thing, you cut that part out and just leave me going, I said these guys are as bad as commies and Nazis. Then back to, I would kill over some things. And saying you're as bad as a commie is the least of what you'd have to deal with. Yes.
Kinda shady.
When you cut the entire hypothetical part out, it sure does look like I was saying something different than I was. Again, thousands of people watched that show when it happened 2 years ago. Not one person was retarded enough to think that I was calling for violence against the wife of some libertarian guy.
Stupid.
So I tried to Google it. I Googled, where is Liquid Zulu from? We got his website. Let's check the Reddit. Why is this not in dark mode? I don't see anything. I don't know, but if anybody knows, let me know. Where is Zulu from? Is that what we're doing? Thank you, Angry. If that is the point. Yeah, guys, if you ever send a Cash App, a Venmo, a PayPal, please let me know in the chat because the notifications don't always pop up, and I want to be able to thank you, and of course, give Morty his treat. And if we hit that goal, push-ups. Item set for today only. Morty will not die if 5 people donate in the next 30 minutes. 99 cents will count.
Calling for violence against the wife of some libertarian guy. I mean, anyway, whatever.
Yeah, I think we should move off of that point for now. That's been talked about enough. I want to move to the audience.
I'm in my foot. I have my foot warmer, so I don't have individual use of my feet.
Super chats and questions in a minute, but I did have a couple things I wanted to pose to both of you. So, Zulu.
Okay, so they're gonna have a couple. Yeah, so he's from Liberty said Scotland, I think, on Liquid Zulu. So here is what we are gonna do. We are 8 minutes from the 3-hour mark, so we will see as much of this Q&A as we can. Unless you guys keep the party raging.
You are saying that you, and I know because I've talked to you, that obviously you don't want the state, importing millions of people. That's obviously also not, that's just the way you don't want the public school to, we all want privatization. We've been over that. Do you not see that there is, I guess it's kind of a question goes both ways, but do you not see that there is a big difference between like your hypothetical and the one that Dave was originally asking, which was just getting at, like, while we're still waiting for privatization to be feasible in the here and now, get enough people on board where we can actually do it, there's nothing that is like a anti-libertarian, inconsistent libertarian take to be like, saying you're okay with the state keeping, the kids that the state has kidnapped. Well, they should not do that. They should not force kids to go there. But it would be a double aggression to be like, and now we have these kids here, and we're going to allow these other dangerous people to be coming in as well. So that was Dave's entire point. And I feel like that was the premise of, like, when Dave's saying, should we support restrictions on public property? It's not the, like, is that it's not even like a libertarian position. It's more like just like, I know you don't like the word pragmatically. Practically speaking, right now, what should be libertarian? Like, I feel like you're always doing this thing where you're and I get it, you're a natural law theorist, you focus on the theory, but people are going to ask reasonable questions of like, you know, especially if you're saying, well, I don't know, hopefully this makes sense. You know, like I
Spit it out, bro. Land the fucking plane. What are you talking about?
The here and now, and like, you know, what do we do in the interim, right? Like similarly, like I don't think you would say if someone said, hey, we want to abolish taxation, but right now the best I can do is, you know, cut it by 50%. Like you wouldn't be some like weird absolutist saying like, no, it's all or nothing. You know?
I mean, are you sure? Because he's willing to kill his mom. So I don't see him being like, okay, 50% tax is okay. And if he does, then he is the inconsistent one.
Like you wouldn't be some like weird absolutist saying like, no, it's all or nothing. You know? So, you know, anyway, what do you have to say to
that? So as far as evaluating policy proposals, I accept Mises and Pavkovich's regression theorem. Nikola Pavkovich, he presented this on Fabian Liberty's stream. So basically the idea is you look at which way the arrow is pointing with any given policy. You go, okay, well, this policy, is it built on the premise that government can solve problems? So we all agree there are many problems out there, right? There are many specific scarcities which impede the acquisition of your values. And the question is this policy built on the premise that government can solve these problems? Now, I'm saying with the bordertarian point, they're pointing to all these problems with immigration.
Bordertarian? Is that like an open borders libertarian? Is that what that means?
Now, I'm saying with the bordertarian point, they're pointing to all these problems with immigration. And their claim is that the government can solve that. Now, if you take that principle seriously, well, that same principle can be used to justify any further interventions into the economy, right? And
so to say that the government can do a thing means the government can do anything.
What?
Nope.
Specifically, we know that those interventions, that any given intervention into the economy will indeed generate more problems, right? That's everybody knows that. And so then those further problems that are created by this first intervention, well, you can just as easily justify intervening to stop that. So the correct way to evaluate a given policy, as far as libertarians are concerned, is if the policy isn't built on the premise that government can solve problems, if it's in fact built on the premise that government can't solve problems, then it's a justified policy. So if the 50% tax cut was built on the premise that, well, we want the government to make the maximum revenue, and
we'll end on the side quest of this. Insane.
Tax cut was built on the premise that, well, we want the government to make the maximum revenue, and we believe in the Laffer curve or whatever. That would be a bad policy by libertarian standards. The way we should advocate for that tax cut, and this would be a good policy, is if it's built on the premise that, well, taxation is theft and government can't solve problems. So we need to try and cut taxation as much as possible. And maybe you can only cut 50% at the moment. Maybe that's all you can get the votes for. But it's still a good policy by libertarian standards because it regresses into total anarcho-capitalism. Because if you keep recursively applying that premise that government can't solve problems, eventually you end up in anarchism.
Well, okay, well then I would just respond quickly and say, my premise is that the state shouldn't kidnap children and aggress upon them. And from that premise, I would say, and they shouldn't do a double aggression where they kidnap them and then put them in danger. Like, I just think that does follow.
That does follow. Indeed, it does.
The same kind of logic you're playing. But Dave, I also want to put something to you, because you know, I'm on your side when it comes to this like public property thing. But do you not see that there's kind of a big this, because on the immigration front, I think there's a big jump from allowing a local government to enforce the boundary of a school and to keep homeless people and drug addicts out of it versus what it takes to, because listen, everything you said about the consequences.
Oh my God.
Open migration.
He speaks like Trump does, where he's like over here and then over here and then say the thing, please. He's like, well, you were saying, but like, you know, and then, but this other thing, like, spit it out.
And to keep
he's trying to say there's a difference between the resources needed to keep an individual homeless man out of a school versus the resources needed to effectively close the border. That's what he's trying to say.
Those people and drug addicts out of it versus what it takes to, because listen, everything you said about the consequences of like open migration and this like Biden policy to let in millions of people, like, yeah, that's bad. And obviously that's going to lead to like negative consequences. And I think, Zulu, you even agree that that's not something you necessarily think is good, even though you don't think that we can use government to solve it. But
What is the
Isn't
question?
it it's a much bigger ask to be like, what it takes, the amount of show of force and centralization and tax revenue and money printing that it takes to get the force required to expel those people then is a much bigger ask than just a school keeping homeless people out of it.
Yeah, so I was right. You're saying there's a difference in the resources needed to protect a school from homeless people than there is to protect a border from illegals. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of words for a very basic concept.
Oh, you're talking about like mass deportations or something like
Right,
that?
yeah, mass deportations and
yeah,
stuff like
okay,
that.
so sure. No question. No question about that, right? And so I'm certainly happy to concede that, like, yes, mass deportations is a whole different
Ball
dynamic,
game.
and there's lots of different potential infringements on liberty and costs to all of that. So that's something where, like, the devil really is in the details. I'm just making the point that, like, look, if we're just talking about it from theory, which I guess is what this debate is about, it's like the government did move all of these people in here, either in effect or literally did do that. And so that does create a little bit of a problem for libertarians and how we might view these things. But just like in response to, some of the stuff Zulu's saying, like, it's kind of like I said on your show, Jacob, like, the older I get, the more certain I get about a narrower set of ideas, and the more humble I get about a much broader set of ideas.
I like that. I heard that before. And the older I get, the more sure I am about a very narrow scope of ideas, and the more humble I get about a much broader set of ideas. Bars. Liberty Plus TV said, the example I use is if you are kidnapped and you could vote for eating food or not eating food, you'd be coerced into that choice, and voting for your freedom isn't on the table. Okay, I'm following this. I'm not really sure what an example of what.
About a narrower set of ideas, and the more humble I get about a much broader set of ideas. And like all this speaking about strategy as if it's like some objectively superior strategy. I don't know. I see a lot of holes in this stuff. The truth is, I think it's one of the things that Rand really failed on, that I see, like, one of the things she just got so wrong. Was me and Michael Malice, who loves Ayn Rand, but we always joke about this and make fun of her, that she, in the
name drop,
the 1964 election, she said that the reason why Barry Goldwater didn't win the presidential election was because he didn't fully embrace objectivism and have, like, a perfect, moral foundation, and therefore that allowed him to be it's just so
that was
reality. It's just like an assertion based on no evidence at all. I mean, he was the most philosophically consistent candidate. LBJ had no, like, coherent worldview at all, and so you're just kind of chasing the conclusion that you want. And so the idea that, like, what really moves people or what really wins the day is, like, the problem is that if you endorse, let's say, not having a wide open border, then people will think that you endorse the state solving some type of problem, and therefore they will think that the state can solve other economic problems. And this isn't really how people are moved. Actually, it's just us libertarians and, like, some other people out there, a very small group of people who actually even care about philosophy at all.
Yep, and this is directly relevant to what I say about the Crucible, or largely the Christian nationalists. Like, you're more concerned with being right than actually getting your ideas out in society. And fair enough. If that's what you want, then that's what you want. But some of us actually want to affect change. Hey, we got Kelly Green over on the vertical. What did I make that poll? Ironically. Wow. 42% of people on the vertical stream said they would not smash the like button because they like torturing kids. Weird. Liberty said there is nothing wrong with looking at what you can accomplish in the short term, and voting for the option that allows you to eat is actually a better move, so you can live long enough to gain freedom. I kind of feel like that's Dave's entire argument and entire problem with Zulu's position. Can you tell me how that is not the case?
A very small group of people who actually even care about philosophy at all. And the fact that people contradict themselves all over the place. Good. There are, there are all types of leftists who might be good on marijuana. They don't necessarily carry through. They don't have logical consistency, and they don't even think about that. And the truth is that I think that if you're making really compelling libertarian arguments on war and money and guns and, you know, government spending and government corruption and whatever else, but then you also don't adopt the insane policy that we ought to open the borders immediately and let tens of millions of people flood this country and ruin the whole thing, or you don't take the position that you ought to let your kids get tortured to death before you steal $1, I think you're actually much more likely to persuade people on all of these other correct, important libertarian ideas, and much less likely to be dismissed as an out-of-touch kook who cares more about having a perfectly consistent theory in their head than actually seeing improvements in real life.
So if you didn't notice, when we were talking about the poll about torturing children, Liquid Zulu here, the guy with the terrible camera, said that he genuinely believes that if, hypothetically, there was a situation where the person that he loved most in the world was going to be tortured to death, and he could, the only way he could prevent that torture and death of the person that he loves most is to steal a penny. And he said, "Mama gonna die." I don't think that that is moral.
Having a perfectly consistent theory in their head than actually seeing improvements in real life.
And so, just real quick, can I jump in on this? So,
bro.
You're saying there that people aren't moved by philosophy. I reject.
No, I'm
that
not making a
completely.
black and white. I'm not making a black and white statement like that. Again, that's not.
That's your
I
game.
know you want to turn everything I say into like this splitting, like you said, all or nothing. I didn't say people aren't moved by philosophy. I was saying that rigorous philosophical consistency is actually not the main mover of people.
There's a reason that Andrew Wilson is bigger than Jim Bob.
Okay, so not the main mover. So it is at least one of the movers. Okay, that's
Absolutely.
fine.
Sure.
So I
Absolutely.
hope that philosophy is indeed the main mover. It is the fundamental, which gives you any sort of society at any point in history. I think the fundamental question is, well, what is the philosophy of the day? Because even those people who aren't philosophically inclined, they still have a philosophy, right? It's just that their philosophy isn't explicit.
He's doing his coke again. All right, so let me say that the issue is if you start saying, no, it's actually good enough to keep voting to get things you want because it's good in the short term, and then trying to work out your path to freedom, it's like Stockholm Syndrome. Dave being against allowing homesteading and privatization of parks is wild. I don't think he said that. I just think that he said that we shouldn't have ever had public parks is not a response to what we do with public property. Yeah, so that's not what he said. I'm willing to admit my bias. I definitely like Dave, and I do not like Zulu's content. But this is not what he said.
Aren't philosophically inclined, they still have a philosophy, right? It's just that their philosophy isn't explicit, it's implicit. And whatever that implicit philosophy is, that's what the philosophy of the day is. And that still is driving them, because that's the most fundamental beliefs any person can have, is their philosophy.
Okay, so then stated yes, okay, so then again, this just becomes like circular logic. Okay, so then if we're defining philosophy as how every single...
Hey man, I am willing to die on the hill that stealing nickels is justified to save lives. If you want to disagree, be my guest.
Single human being thinks, then yeah, it has a huge impact on how every single person thinks. The point I'm making is that being philosophically consistent is not what it animates most people. And even if you're describing their anti-philosophy as philosophy, well, it sure is inconsistent as hell.
Right, so I'm not saying that being philosophically consistent is what motivates every person, or even the majority of people. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that whatever their philosophy is, implicit or explicit, is going to be the thing that is most fundamentally driving them. Because anything else, like, their remote conclusions about...
Okay, agreed. And then...
whatever they should do.
If you describe philosophy, if you define philosophy as the thing that is the major driver of people, then yes, it is true that philosophy is the major driver of people. Yes.
Sam Harris 2.0. Sam Harris 2.0. Well, if we define this as what I want it to be, then it is what I define it to be.
Stupid.
Brilliant. And then...
driver of people, then yes, it is true that philosophy is the major driver of people. Yes.
I'm defining philosophy as the most fundamental, the broadest abstractions that one can make, the most fundamental beliefs that are possible to have. And I'm saying that these distant decisions that they're making way up there, those are actually, they come from whatever philosophy they have, right? Because those are not fundamental decisions. I'm not saying that philosophy is defined as the set of things which drive you. I'm saying that I'm later concluding that philosophy does indeed drive you.
You're saying everyone has a hierarchy of values, which you could do another way of describing implicit.
Well, I mean, it depends on the hierarchy. The values really come down to a hierarchy.
The philosophy, and some people are thinking about those things, and some people are just driven by what the culture or other forces are acting upon them to.
It's just all whatever. This is all totally irrelevant to the point that I was making. But yes, sure, people's hierarchies of values affect the way they act. I agree with that. I'm saying that being philosophically consistent is not what moves people for the most part, and there's absolutely no evidence to demonstrate that it is.
No, I'm moreover saying that.
Well, by the way, I'm not saying like within reason that can't, obviously, like to a large degree. That's what I try to do. Like there is something about like presenting that like I have consistent principles on this issue, but like if I just mean taken to the extreme of saying I have this principle that governments can solve no problem, therefore homeless junkies all over the street and open borders and wreck the whole country is not going to have people go, oh, okay, so therefore we have to be consistent and not intervene in the economy or something like that. I just don't think this isn't fundamentally how human beings are moved.
All right. Well,
And that's exactly what we were saying from the beginning. You are basing this theory that sounds good on paper, but when you add in the fact that people don't operate according to one single principle, then all you have is some good ideas. We mean good ideas. Good ideas are great. But that's not all. And so, hence my and then. Okay, great. You got some good ideas. And then
we're running short on time.
Well, honestly,
I do want to get
like, look, the real, like, just very quickly, the real answer to that almost though is just like agree to disagree, and you keep doing it your way, and I'll keep doing it my way, and we'll both try to reach people and see which one moves the needle more. You know, I mean,
yeah. Well, let's get through some of these super chats, and Zulu, you can try to work in some of the things you wanted to say.
All right, guys. God damn. No push-ups for me. Shout out to Equality and Deference. We had Adam with the $2 over here. Who else gave it to? Where's the banner set? There was another 2 somewhere, right? I definitely had. You were tied with someone. Who were you tied with? Oh, you were tied with Equality. Oh, and then of course we had Jennifer, aka Arrow, as the sponsor of the stream. Thank you so very, very much, guys. My goodness. I'm glad we were able to get through the main aspect of the debate. I really do see a lot of myself in Dave versus, and a lot of Jim Bob in Zulu. And I think that a huge problem with the Christian nationalist movement, the crucible type people, is a big misunderstanding of how strong Christian ethics actually move people. That if you buy in, then great. But that's a big if. And that was the exact same problem with secular humanism. That if people will buy into secular humanism, well, then it's great. But there's no driving factor. And while there absolutely is a driving factor to do what is good in Christianity, a lot of people don't believe in it. And so it doesn't matter if you have the best ideas in the world. If people don't believe in them, if people aren't willing to adopt your ideas, then you just got some sounds coming out your face. That's it. So big thank you to all of you guys. I know that you guys could be doing anything else in the world. It's a Friday night, party hardy, and yet here you are with me. Dilly to that. Thank you so very, very much for hanging out, guys. Once again, we've got my co-host, the Overlord Morty, over here. And again, I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. If you are new, please do hit that subscribe, guys. I am live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe, and YouTube sucks with those notifications. So don't just hit the button. Ring that bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. Thank you so very, very much for hanging out. Once again, we've got Morty, and I have been your host, Ledge, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are